He's hoping for a new beginning. But
beware the slash of Satan's blade.
Because of the similarities in the names of two of our patients, a release order was accidentally signed for a man that the state had declared criminally insane.
What were they telling you?
Oh, that someone was murdered here a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, you mean the sorority slaughter.
Please, Cheryl, I don't want to hear about that.
It's true then.
Yeah, blood and guts and everything.
Cheryl, you are really disgusting.
These conditions are inhuman.
These patients are inhuman. We get all the weird ones, the real crazies. For them, Wardell is the last stop. They're on Thorsul, Doc.
Stop! You stop that! You slut! You whore! You stop! Listen, stop! It's all right.
You shouldn't be flaunting your nakedness in front of the world.
He's not nuts, Sheriff. He has an illness.
Just because the goddamn broad is so good looking don't mean we all have to think with our dicks. Huh?
Don't let the boogeyman get you.
I'm warning you two. Leave me alone down there.
Hi, this is Hazel Tanksy from Voodoo Massacre, and you are listening to the Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, episode number 54. And this week's feature presentation is 1984's Silent Madness, which you just heard the intro for there. We're also going to be doing our bottom three, I kind of guess, final girls or final boys. So back to the cat flushing the toilet this episode. And yes, and lots more to come. And without further ado, introduce you to our Amiga sorority sisters. Erik, over in Dublin, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you very much.
Excellent. And what have you been up to recently? Anything exciting?
Drinking lots of vodka and listening to The Beat.
The Beat, okay.
Yes, remember The Beat?
I do remember The Beat. Is it
yes.
Jerry Dammers? Is that Jerry Dammers?
No, that's the specials. The Beat is Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger.
Right, okay. Any reason why you on a Beat tip?
It was my birthday recently, and I got a voucher for Amazon, and I bought the Beats back catalogue, the special deluxe editions. They only had 3 albums, so I spent last night sitting down listening to them, and then the more drunk I got, the more I started to dance.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Okay, well that sounds good. How about you, Nathan? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I brought my own mic.
You bought your own mic? What do you mean you bought a new mic, or?
No, I'm quoting The Simpsons.
Okay.
Oh, right.
I was
Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Okay. I always fall down when people quote The Simpsons. I like The Simpsons, but I'm not word perfect on it. But we're going to talk a little bit about Hazel Tankersley, who introduced the show just then, is your special final girl, isn't she? And she's going to be making a return soon, isn't she?
Yes, she is coming back for a reunion film.
So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. You're going to be working with Joseph, aren't you, on that, I believe? Joseph, how are you?
Is going to edit it for me.
Yes, excellent. Joseph, have you shot the film yet?
No, I'm shooting it Friday.
Okay, excellent. So you will be able to tell us a little bit more about it next time?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right now, I mean, I've written the script out, but they never follow the script, so it could be totally different for all I know.
Really? So they don't follow the script? Because if you haven't heard, I mean, well, you probably, if you listen to the show, you would know that Nathan has produced lots of films, or made lots of films. Mostly, when were they shot? Was it late 90s?
Yeah, it was the mid to late 90s.
Okay, and they're all on YouTube, aren't they? In the guise of things like Hairdresser Massacre and Voodoo Massacre, and what are the other ones?
The Old Federal Massacre, parts 1, 2, and 3. And The Gathering. The
Gathering, yes. And yes, well, definitely check those out. They're all on YouTube. And I was very sad to hear that the shoe rack will not be making an appearance, will it? In the
boo.
My grandmother says she's got another one.
Okay. So it's an upgraded shoe rack.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It'll be like having a different actor playing Tommy Jarvis. It's the same type of thing.
Absolutely, yes. Maybe the old shoe rack could be seen in a flashback.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. And Joseph, you're helping out with this, aren't you?
Yes, I will be doing all the post-production editing and scoring and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Well, how are you doing apart from that?
Silent but deadly.
Oh, okay.
Which applies for me because one of my cats just used my hallway for something other than walking.
What would Hysteria Continues?
I had to open my office window just to get rid of the smell. It's that bad.
So what would the Hysteria Continues podcast be without a cat doing something unmentionable somewhere?
Yeah, right now I have a green-cheeked conure on my shoulder.
Okay, that's a bird, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's like a parrot.
A parrot. Okay. Is he chatty? Yeah. Do any of your parrots? Do they talk? Or they
he's really. He doesn't really talk, but he has a wider range of sounds that come out of his mouth or his beak, as it were.
Okay. Will he be joining in the podcast?
He might. If you hear him chirping, it means he wants to go back to his cage and eat, probably.
Okay. Well,
I've got some green cheese on my shoulder.
And where did you find that green cheese?
Oh, it's been in the fridge for about 6 years. So.
Oh, okay.
Ew.
Ooh. Well, as ever, I'm sure if you're listening at home, you're thankful this isn't a video cast. For obvious reasons, we didn't want to look at Erik's cheese. Funnily enough, I'm a little bit hungover today. Which probably come as a great shock to all of you.
Big surprise.
Yeah. Well, we had a little dinner party last night, and I spent all yesterday cooking, and so I kind of did a kind of Fanny Craddock and drank. I think Fanny Craddock used to sort of drank while I was cooking, which is obviously a big mistake. And,
oh dear!
And the night ended up. Well, actually, don't feel too bad. I didn't drink that much, but we busted out. Was that the bird?
That was the bird. Yes.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
He apologizes.
It's we busted out. I don't know how you describe it. How you pronounce it, but it's called ginga or gina. It's cherry sherry from Portugal.
Oh,
which is very nice.
Sounds nice.
A little bit deadly. So anyway, apologies if I'm a bit even more rambling today. And as usual, I've got a cat trying to get in the room. I don't know if you can hear. No, he stopped as soon as I said that. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to be doing Silent Madness today. And I say our top 3 is our kind of bottom final girls or final boys. But before we do that, should we do our standard thing? Well, not standard thing, but the thing we do every week. And that is, well, actually, before we do that, I think we should address something, shouldn't we? Because probably most of you know, if you on the Hysteria Continues or Hysteria Lives Facebook group, that the commentaries we did for Savage Water and Death by Invitation have been, well, basically, they've been pulled. And it's nothing to do, unfortunately, well, nothing to do with the Vinegar Syndrome, who were the company putting it out, but the director of Savage Water, Paul Kenner, finally came out of the woodwork. We couldn't find him when we were looking for background information on the film, and the cast and crew we spoke to didn't know where he was, but he suddenly reappeared, and it turns out that he has a better quality copy of Savage Water. And so it might be making an appearance in the future, but we've all got copies of it. Luckily, we got sent some copies before it got pulled from distribution. And so thank you to Vinegar Syndrome for that. And it's a bit of a shame all round. And obviously, I know quite a few people saying they were looking forward to listening to the commentaries. I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet because I only got my copies, I think, on Friday. But guys, how did you think it turned out?
I was really impressed, actually. I mean, I said to you guys before that I don't really listen to the podcast after we finish recording, but I enjoyed listening to us back watching Savage Water. I haven't watched Death by Invitation yet, though.
Okay, because Joseph did a sterling job, because obviously it was a Skype, like this is, the podcast was a Skype cast, and we ran into a few issues, didn't we?
Yes, synchronizing, because we all had to watch it streaming online, so synchronizing it was, a bit of a hurdle.
Yes, but Joseph did a great job, and hopefully you will get to hear them. And apparently, that some copies did get out there, so there may be a few knocking about. So, But hopefully there'll be an even better version of Savage Water coming out in the future, and we're very much hoping to be working with Vinegar Syndrome in the future on more commentaries, which hopefully we'll have some news for you at some point soon. Anything else you want to say about that, guys?
In the meantime, if you did get a copy of this, I'd hang on to it because it'd probably be worth something.
Indeed, yes. But yeah, so that was that. But let's talk about what we've been watching recently, because we haven't actually recorded for something like 3 or 4 weeks, have we?
Yeah, it's about a month.
About a month.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so Erik, do you want to go first? What have you been watching?
Well, I watched Hellraiser Revelations, which is the 2011 contractual obligation sequel. Apparently, it was just rushed into production so that they could hold on to the rights for this, proposed remake that they keep talking about. Reviews of this film have not been kind, to say the least. It's been very maligned. So I went into it with trepidation because the previous, 4 or 5 Hellraiser sequels have been shite, to be honest. So I didn't have high hopes for this. And I was surprised that it was, watchable to a certain degree, considering how negative the reviews had been. It starts out as kind of a found footage film with these obnoxious guys young guys going down to Mexico to party and get laid and that. And they stumble across the infamous puzzle box and then disappear. And then a year later, their grieving families get together for dinner, and out of the blue, one of the boys turns up, bloodied and bruised, and they sort of learn the events of what happened the last 12 months. And it's got a few twists, and it's, in its defense, it's the first film in the series since probably part 4, Bloodline, that fully utilizes the Hellraiser framework that was set up in the early movies. This isn't one of the drab straight-to-video sequels where they took a pre-existing script and sort of shoehorned Pinhead into it, for about 2 minutes at the end and then called it a Hellraiser film. This is a bona fide Hellraiser film, and even if it's not terribly successful, at least it's attempting to sort of build on what Clive Barker had set up in the first couple of movies. I would say if you have any fondness for the first 4 Hellraiser movies, you might give it a whirl. I mean, it's 75 minutes long, of which 5 minutes at the end are end credits, so you're talking about just over an hour in length, so it's not going to take too much time out of your life. I was pleasantly surprised, just considering how berated it was. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it or if any of you guys want to see it, but
I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't think I got past part 3, to be honest, way back when that was released.
Yeah, well, the situation with like the Hellraiser Hellseeker and Hellraiser Deader and Hellraiser Hellworld. They were all spec scripts that had a Hellraiser element thrown into them by Dimension Pictures and then released as Hellraiser films. And so they really have no connection at all to what Clive Barker was doing back in the 80s. But at least this one attempts that. Oh, and by the way, it has a new, everyone probably knows, it has a new actor playing Pinhead, and he is laughably awful. And that alone is worth the admission price, I would say.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I also saw a film I'd never heard of called Hallucinations of a Deranged Mind. This is a Coffin Joe film, and I've never seen any Coffin Joe films before in my life. And apparently this is very like the structure of Nightmare Concert, the Lucio Fulci film. It takes footage from previous Coffin Joe films. It's kind of like a mega mix. There's this guy who is suffering from recurring nightmares where he dreams that Coffin Joe is trying to steal his wife for some kind of satanic ritual, I don't know, to sacrifice her or something. And so his dream sequences are basically outtakes from previous Coffin Joe films. And I have to say, it's probably one of the most surreal films I've ever seen. The first 15 minutes alone is a nightmare sequence with no context. So basically you're just seeing shots of a woman covered she's lying in bed and she's covered head to toe in tarantulas. There's all these scantily clad men who form a staircase that Coffin Joe walks down. You get some mechanical snake-like creatures bouncing around the ground, and there's absolutely no sense to it. It goes on for about an hour and a half, and it didn't really sustain my interest. It did for about 40 minutes because the visuals are just so bizarre. But after a while, my interest began to wane because it needed something to make it make some degree of sense. I thought I would be intrigued to see what these Coffin Joe films are like, because they seem completely out of the ordinary and unlike anything I've ever seen. But Hallucinations in a Deranged Mind, I thought was just a bit too offbeat for my liking, I think.
Was it, how old was it? Was it one of his 60s or 70s ones?
It was made in 1978.
Right.
So the framing device of it is 70s, but I don't know what the films he's taken from are probably from the 60s and early 70s. But I mean, there's certainly plenty. There's actually one scene where all these creatures are walking around, and the creatures are basically people's arses with faces painted on them. And then hats where their torso would be is a big hat, and so you have these arses bouncing around making weird noises. As I said, it's not something you'd see every day. Not something you'll see in your local multiplex.
No. Okay. No, I've not actually seen any Coffin Joe films. I'm aware of him, but how about you guys? What about you, Nathan and Joseph? Are you Coffin Joe aficionados?
I haven't seen any.
I know who he is, but I've never seen his films.
No. Okay.
He actually plays himself in this movie. What happens is that the guy who's having the nightmares about Coffin Joe goes to his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist suggests that they get Jose Mojica Marins, who plays Coffin Joe, to come in and talk to the guy and say, listen, this guy you're dreaming of is just a character I made up, blah, 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 blah. So it is very similar kind of to Nightmare Concert, I thought.
Also sort of New Nightmare kind of.
Yeah, exactly, just like New Nightmare as well. And the other film I watched, you were talking about Vinegar Syndrome. They were very kind to send us the two films. Like, they're a brand new company, so they have two films already on their catalogue. One of which is the lost films of Herschel Gordon Lewis, which is 3 previously thought lost sexploitation features from the acclaimed master of exploitation cinema. Now, I only got around to watching one of them, and that was one called Black Love from 1971. And I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, but if you are about to watch it, I would have your rosary beads ready, because it is filthy, absolute filthy. Have you any of you guys watched it?
I have dipped into it, yes.
Yes. It kind of masquerades as kind of a sex education type documentary about black people having sex, basically. So you get lots of close-ups of winkles and vajayjays, and there's like vulvas and fallopian tubes flapping around everywhere. And that goes on for about 75 minutes. Really, with no... I don't know, there's no point to it, I don't think. I don't know, would you agree, Justin? Did you get any insight out of it?
No, but I kind of guess there was a lot. That was how they kind of got past some of my understanding of that kind of whole sexploitation of those kind of faux sex documentaries was really to get hardcore pornography through, wasn't it, under the guise of sex education. Well,
that's kind of what happened in the 90s as well, with all those Lover's Guide type videos and things. That was the way to get porn past the censors, was to masquerade as educational material.
It was probably the most unerotic porn I've ever seen, I think, perhaps.
Yes.
Well, maybe not the most. Obviously, the stuff I saw in that Spanish supermarket was probably slightly more unerotic. But the it was just bizarre. I mean, it was kind of I loved the voiceover. It got someone. It's the same kind of voice that you hear in the early John Waters movies, isn't it? When they do like a introduction saying, like in Female Trouble or something, it's got like a really kind of nasally kind of like black love all the way through it. It was kind of, and I think we said just before the show, it's probably got some of the smallest penises I've ever seen, which is very strange for a sex film. You would have thought they would have auditioned people for that kind of role, but I don't know. You see, I've
It's got an incredible dance sequence, though, that goes on for, well, it feels like it goes on for about 20 minutes. It might even go on for 20 minutes, I don't know, but it certainly went on for a long time.
It did go along, and all their clothes fall off, don't they? So they're all they're frogging away in this kind of disco, and all the clothes fall off. So yeah, it was. I haven't checked out the other ones yet, but I think for a long time Herschel Gordon Lewis said he'd never actually recorded and done any hardcore pornography, but he finally admitted to doing this one, didn't he? I think.
Yeah. Well, and just on a technical note, I was amazed at how good it looked on the Blu-ray. For a film that is over 40 years old and was considered lost, it looked absolutely stunning, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they've done a bang-up job, haven't they?
Pardon the pun.
Pardon the pun, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, Joseph and Nathan, have you been enjoying Black Love?
I have before. I've never seen it, but I've enjoyed Black Love, if that's what you're asking.
Joseph, you know what I mean. You haven't watched those yet. Oh, you would say...
No, I do plan on it. I mean, I was very grateful that they sent the Blu-ray, so...
Don't
I
watch
will
it if
watch
you've got
eventually.
any relatives around or anything like that. Don't pop it on for something to watch while you've got your,
Hey, Dad, look what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandma, come and sit down and just watch our film.
Don't let Hazel Tankersley see it.
No, that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, I was going to say Vinegar Syndrome definitely. With the sterling work they've done with these, and they sent us another video, didn't they? DVD, which was
Expectations and Confessions. Yeah.
Yes. Have you watched either of those?
I watched Expectations.
Is that
and again? Have your rosary beads ready for that one too.
Is that hardcore as well?
Yes, I think it was.
What do you mean?
It certainly has a porn star cast.
Okay.
But,
and are they putting things in each other?
I think. Well, they are. Yeah, but do we get close-ups? I can't remember. It probably blanked it out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be fun. This is the filth show because I'll be talking about a porno as well when I come to my turn. But
what were you in Spain recently?
Sorry,
were you in
I
Spain
haven't.
Recently?
No, but I've all become clear, as it were. So, anything else, Eric? Do you want to shock us with?
No, that's about it. Yeah, okay. I've seen other. I watched the Mothman Prophecies on the telly the other night, which I think is good for the first half, and then sort of slows down, becomes a bit dull in the second half, but worth a watch. I thought.
I kind of like that film, but it's always weird because it's got is it Deborah Messing from Will and Grace in it, isn't she? In a kind of straight role.
At the start, yeah, that's who it was,
and that's the wife, wasn't it? And she's so you keep on expecting her to like pull a face or be kooky, but she's just it's a straight role for her, isn't it? So it's always seemed a bit odd. But anyway, good stuff. Well, no, thank you, Eric. Nathan, regale us with what you've been watching.
Well, I rewatched ATM. And I actually liked it a lot better this time than I did the first time. Maybe because I knew what to expect when going in to see it. And the opening credits sequence, I think, is so awesome that I almost ripped it off for Voodoo Massacre Part 2. But then I thought, I don't want to rip somebody off. So, I did that plenty in my other old movies. I think some of the music in some of them you guys might have recognized. So, I've already done, the rip-off thing, so I got to try to be a little careful with that. I don't want to get sued.
No, none of us want to get sued. Although we've probably sailed a little close to the wind a few times, haven't we?
Yeah. Just say about ATM, I was just looking on gorezone.net during the week, and it made number 9 in their top 10 best movies of 2012, as voted for by the readers.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't know if I'd consider it, like the best of 2012 or anything.
Well, wait till you hear what was number 5. Silent Hill Revelation.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well,
Is it bad?
If it is bad. If it's number 5, then that's quite a bad year for horror.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
But I mean, the characters are morons, so I mean, it's hard to root for them. But I don't know. I just kind of sat back and watched it from an entertaining aspect, and at least it's not boring. So I got to give it that.
I still haven't seen it, so I have to make a note. Actually, I'll make a note to watch that. Anything else?
Let's see. I don't think I've watched a whole lot of horror lately, except for obviously this movie for the podcast. I did want to just mention, non-horror wise, that I watched Argo with reservations because I didn't, I wasn't sure about it, but it way surpassed my expectations.
You know about the big controversy over that film?
Actually, no. I don't. So what is it?
Well, the big controversy is that the film makes out that the people were turned away. I haven't seen it, but were turned away by the British. But in fact, it was actually the British who saved them in real life. And so people have been getting... It's because it's a bit like typical Hollywood when they did that Code Breaker film, when it was the British and Polish that had done it, and they changed it to the Americans. And so it's a bit of rewriting history. And Ben Affleck is saying, well, it's not, I took some liberties with the story to make it more exciting, but it's not he's kind of changed it to make the British look bad in it, which hasn't gone down too well here. So
that's not nice.
I didn't hear about that.
Didn't you? Yeah, no. It's been. He said he's responded to criticism and said he had to have the characters have nowhere to turn, but they had interviews with the people, the British embassy staff who were there at the time, who actually got them out in a kind of in a Mini with a Union Jack on it or something. It was some kind of he completely changed it, so it's not a true story. It's a kind of he's kind of amended it, massaged the truth, basically. So,
are you offended as a British person?
Well, not offended, but I just kind of sometimes I think it's if you're going to say something's a true story, and then with that Codebreaker one where they kind of completely changed the the nationality of the people who did it, then I think if people, if the people who actually risk their lives in real life to do something, if they're completely rewritten out of history, then I think that's not a good thing if you're going to say it's a true story. So, so there you go. But apart from that, I've heard it's a very good film. So, it's just take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. Sorry, Nathan, I've probably ruined it for you now, haven't I? But,
well, yeah, now I'm like, I want to know more about this story, so now I want to go look it up, but I'll do that after the podcast.
Yes, okay. Anything else?
No, just my own movies to get ideas for the new one.
Absolutely. Well, okay. Well, and we shall look forward to that. And Joseph, what have you been watching?
Well, I also watched Argo, and to be fair, it says based around true events. It doesn't say this is a true story. So, I don't know. That stuff kind of didn't really bother me. I mean, if I wanted a history lesson, I'd go read about it. I'm watching a movie to be entertained, and Argo was very entertaining, very well made, and very suspenseful. I was really surprised at how much I loved it. I mean, I thought it'd be like an artsy fartsy kind of Oscar bait movie, but it was really good. So I definitely recommend it.
Okay.
And let's see what else. Just a couple. I mean, I watched 388 Arletta Avenue. It's another one of those found footage movies. This one is basically it stars Nick Stahl and Devin Sawa, or however you pronounce his last name. Basically, Nick Stahl is this, I guess he's like an advertising executive or something, and someone breaks into his house and kidnaps his wife, and he's going crazy to try to find her. And it's told through the point of view of this guy who has, the guy who's kidnapped this woman. He set up cameras in his house and in his car just so he can kind of record his reaction. And it's a neat idea, but unfortunately, it's a movie that depends on every character acting as dumb as possible just so it can advance the story. I mean, I had no sympathy for the Nick Stahl character because he completely just throws common sense over his shoulder and does everything you're not supposed to do in a movie. And it costs him. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how, but it's just, I was sitting there, just groaning the whole time. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Why don't you do this? Any normal, sane, rational person would do this. No, you have to act like a moron. So, it's a meh for me. I mean, if you like the whole found footage thing, you might enjoy it. If not, then you're not missing anything.
Okay. No, I've heard a few, but yeah, it's not something I'm going to look out for particularly. But that's why sometimes we do these things, isn't it? So we can take a hit for the team, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Just one more. I watched Compliance finally, after hearing so many things about it, and I thought this was a really well-made movie, and it's really kind of gripping because apparently this is like 100% true. Everything that happened in it really happened, and while I like the movie a lot, at the same time, I am completely flabbergasted that anyone could be so stupid. I mean, these characters are the dumbest. I mean, I'd have to, kind of weep for the United States for having someone this stupid. Basically, it's the story of this, I guess it's a chicken restaurant or something like that. It's like a McDonald's, or I don't know what it is, but basically this cop calls and says that one of the employees there was spotted on camera stealing from a customer. And so basically he has the manager take her into the back room, and they basically put her through all kinds of hell, like, strip searching, sexual assault, and holding her against her will. And it's it's obvious he's not a police officer, but these people are dumb enough to believe it. I mean, anyone in their right mind would say, well, if you're a cop, you would have to come down here. They wouldn't sit on the phone for I think they're on the phone for at least 12 hours. I mean, this whole time I'm sitting there thinking, wow, if this really happened, it's really gripping. But at the same time, wow, these people, I have no sympathy for them. They deserve every bit of misery wrought upon them just for being so stupid. So, yeah, I mean, have you seen it?
No, it's a new film, is it?
Yeah, it came out last year, I believe.
Okay, well, it sounds interesting. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. But how about you guys? Erik and Nathan?
Haven't seen it.
No?
I have.
Oh, you have? What did you think of it?
I kind of have the same opinion. It's a very, I guess, like he said, it's a very well-made movie, and the true story is fascinating. Just because I don't know, I can't believe there at no point in time did anyone, I mean, like while it was all going on, did anyone question whether this was a cop or not? I mean, it's so insane. Even the people that don't have much to do with it, the other workers at the restaurant that are just kind of in and out of the office, just for a few minutes at a time. I mean, even being in there for just a couple of minutes would be enough for me to question, why would a cop be asking you to do this? Why would a cop ask you to do naked jumping jacks? I mean, come on.
Well, the part that gets me, I mean, in any kind of normal movie, you would scream at this kind of behavior. But since this is a true story, you're just like, you're so shocked. I mean, at one point, what he has her do while the other guy's in the room, I slapped my forehead. I was like, wow, this person is just mentally gone. I mean, you can't be that dumb. You just can't. But yeah,
I mean, think that about the girl though.
Yeah, I thought that about everyone. The girl, the manager. I mean, everyone in this movie. It's a shame that I'm saying this, but I was rooting for the fake cop. I mean, he was the only one with any common sense, and he was the bad guy. I mean, I don't dislike the movie. I rather liked it a lot, but at the same time, I was so frustrated because these people. I mean, how can you sympathize with anyone like that? I guess you're not supposed to. I guess you're just kind of like seeing what's happening, but I just don't have any sympathy for them. I mean, it's insane what goes on, and that the fact that this is a true case. And another thing, apparently this has happened like more than once. So I mean, there's more than one real dumb person out there in the world.
Oh, there was another case I read about, not to get too off, subject for the podcast, but right quick, where a guy called posing as a cop and had the female manager and described like a general description, and there was somebody in the restaurant that kind of looked like what he said, and he convinced her to get that person in the back and for her to strip in front of them to act as bait because they thought that he was, like a criminal or something, and she did it. What?
That sounds a lot like the movie, actually. Yeah.
There are a lot of stupid people out there, aren't there? So
unfortunately,
that's the lesson for today.
I was holding on to hope that there wasn't anyone that dumb in the world, but my hopes have been shattered.
No, fair enough. What? Anything else?
No. I mean, I've been a little kind of just watching a lot of TV shows. I haven't really watched a lot of horror films lately. I mean, I do plan to rectify that, but that's all I got this week.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's rattle through a few that I've been watching. I watched some of them we've already spoken about, so I won't talk about very, very long. But I watched Fear Island, the one with, is it one of the Duff sisters?
Yeah, it's Haley Duff, I think.
Haley Duff, yes.
Yeah, I watched that a while back.
Which is pretty rubbish, isn't it? But
yeah, it's not very good.
It's a real kind of TV movie, kind of that really flat kind of TV feel to it. So that wasn't much cop. I watched Detention finally as well, and I think I think because I came to it and everyone else I know who's seen it hated it, I actually quite enjoyed it. Partly because my expectations were so low. I mean, the thing is, a lot of it went over my head because obviously I'm not the target audience. But yeah, there's some bits that I thought it was quite fun. And have you seen it, Erik?
Detention, not yet.
No, because I know you hated it, didn't you, Joseph? And
yes, I thought it was very obnoxious. That's the problem. I mean, it has a lot of great ideas, but they do it in the most obnoxious manner. I didn't sympathize with any character. I couldn't stand watching them. That's my problem mainly with the movie, is it was so like nails on chalkboard annoying.
Well, I know that most people I've spoken to hated it. What were your thoughts on it, Nathan?
Oh, I didn't hate it. I mean, I can't say I loved it or anything, but, I thought it was entertaining. It was never boring. And it has that classic scene that I loved where the girl, is hanging in the hall and people are just walking by chit-chatting. It didn't matter to them that somebody was hanging and everything. And Joseph, why were you shocked that Justin liked it but not shocked that I did?
Well, because you like everything, and Justin has, he has a filter and you don't.
Oh.
Well, see, the thing I got from the movie is they wanted to do a John Waters type film, and it just didn't work that way.
I think sometimes
John Waters, he's a little endearing. I mean, his characters at least, aren't annoying. These are just a bunch of like hipster, whiny, entitled kids that I hated. And I think that was my main problem with the film. I think if I went back and watched it with a different mindset, I might enjoy it, but I just don't have the stamina to do that.
I think sometimes when you go into film where your expectations are so low that it's not going to let you down. So I think I just watched it with that in mind. The other films I revisited was Final Destination 5. Picked up the Blu-ray really cheap, and I think it's it's really enjoyable. I think it's one of the best of the series, and of course the end, which I won't spoil. It's a fantastic twist at the end, which I
think it's the second best in the series. Behind part 2. You
just don't expect a film that far into a series to actually do something that well.
And not to keep interrupting you, but it's a shame because it's the first one in the series that kind of did something different, especially with the ending, and it didn't really do very well at the box office, which is a shame.
Did it not?
I think it probably made its money back, but as the first 4 made a huge profit, I think this barely made a profit. So I'm not sure if we'll ever see Final Destination 6 or not.
Well, it's kind of a nice swan song, really, wasn't it? Because the fourth one was pretty crappy, wasn't it?
I don't mind. I didn't mind the fourth one. I thought the 3D in the fourth one was really good.
See, I didn't much care for the third or the fourth one. I mean, I liked both of them, but they're not two in the series.
But your girlfriend is in the third one.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
Yep.
Well, I would watch it again for her, but
I like all of them.
Well, I like all of them, but I think 3 and 4 and 1 are probably my least favorites. 2 and 5 are just, I think they're really, really fun. To me, those two are what Final Destination movies should be.
Yeah, Joseph, you're right. Actually, it didn't do terribly well. It had a budget of $40 million, and it made $42 million at the U.S. box office. So it didn't.
Worldwide, it might have made back, its profits. Worldwide, yeah. So I don't know. I would like to see a 6th one. I mean, I like the series enough to keep going with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
I mean, another film I kind of watched, which is kind of another series kind of running out of steam, was Paranormal Activity 4. I finally caught that on Love Film, and I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I like all of those films to some degree. I thought the third one was probably my favourite of them. This one wasn't all that really, but it's definitely a case of diminishing returns, and also financially, I think it didn't do as well. But I think it only cost something like $15 million or something, and still made $150 million worldwide. So it's probably, I'm sure there will be another Paranormal Activity coming at some point in the future. And also watched Sinister on Blu-ray, and I really liked it in the cinema. I didn't think it held up as well on a second viewing. I once you know what the mystery, the answers, it just didn't work quite as well for me a second time. Have any of you rewatched it since Sinister? Since it's come out on video?
No, I wasn't that. No, I wasn't hugely impressed with the first time around. To be honest, I liked elements of it, but I thought it was too long. And
no, I talked about it. I think it was on the last show or the one before, but I thought it was decent, but I would never watch it again. I liked Insidious a lot more.
Well,
it has that same kind of type of feel to it, but I was kind of disappointed with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Have you seen the trailer for The Conjuring?
Yeah, I had that when you posted that on the Body Count Continues. Yeah. I watched the trailer, and about 25 or 30 seconds in, there's a big jump scare in the trailer, and I had my sound up, and it actually made me jump, and I had my conure on my shoulder, and it scared him so bad he flew off my shoulder and hit the wall.
Oh no! Really?
Poor bird.
I was like, poor bird. I'm sorry, but that looks really good. I was reading some of the YouTube comments, and someone should just call this. They said someone should just call this the clapper, like that clap on, clap off, where the light comes on.
Yeah.
Because the ghostly figure in the trailer just keeps like clapping their hands every time they make an appearance. I thought that was kind of amusing.
Yeah, no, that looks good. And the saying, because Lily Taylor, I think it's Lily Taylor, isn't it, who's in it? And it's also got Patrick Wilson, isn't it, who was in Insidious.
Yeah.
He's sort of coming back for this, but it's based on, isn't it, based on the true, in inverted commas, is a bit
is it the Harrisville or Herons or Howlands or something?
Warrens.
Something H.
Is it the Warrens? I think they
Harrisville, yeah.
Okay.
Harrisville, yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's based on a true story, right?
Yeah. Like Ben Affleck, true story.
Yeah.
So
one other thing I saw that reminded me kind of Insidious and Sinister was Mama.
Did you watch that? I haven't seen it yet.
Has anyone seen it? I mean, I was kind of let down. I was expecting it to be a lot better, but I mean, it has again. It's like Sinister for me. It had elements that were really effective, but on the whole, I thought it was a bit disappointing.
I've heard it's been sort of lukewarm. I mean, it's done pretty well at the box office, isn't it? I mean, again, you might like it because lead actress is kind of gothy in it. Okay,
Jennifer Thingy.
Yeah,
that's not a prerequisite of films that I like, Erik. But
to Erik it is.
I think it is.
He's got you pigeonholed in his mind.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if Police Academy 8 came out and it was full of people who looked like Toya, I'd go to it.
Well, I'm sure you would. Well, you go to it anyway, wouldn't you? I expect.
Yeah.
Actually,
probably an arresting experience.
Yes. Talking of pigeonholes, the final film I was going to mention is one that was recommended. Well, I wouldn't say recommended, but Patrick on Scream Queens mentioned it, and I had never heard of it before. And it's a gay porn riff on The Ring. You know, like the it's obviously made for it anyway, and it's called The Hole.
I've seen it.
You have seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's hilarious because it's done quite well. It's got, I mean, obviously it's loads of sex in it, but it's basically, if you watch this videotape in 7 days, the phone rings and the voice on the end of the phone says you're gay, and so whoever's watched the tape turns gay 7 days later and has loads of sex. And I haven't watched the whole thing yet, because you don't with pornography, I guess. But there's kind of scenes where they do the whole thing of going out to a cabin and watching the movie, and with the faces obscured on a morphed on photos and stuff. So it's quite well done. What did you think, Nathan?
Oh my God, that's what you can expect from a porn. I mean, I love the scene where these two guys, and I guess it's right after, they've turned because they've watched the video, and one of them says something like, being gay is so badass.
Well, I love it when he's trying to say to this guy, says you're gay, and he says I'm not gay, and he says, do you want to watch the Judy Garland video or the or sort of like sorority sisters video or something, doesn't he? And so it keeps on doing stuff. So it's quite, for those kind of things, I thought it was quite witty. So I've got Patrick to thank for that. But again, I'm sure Patrick, I might have got this wrong, but I'm sure he said there wasn't any actual sex in it, but maybe there was a soft and a hard version. And I think, and again, it was one of the version I saw was the one I'm glad I didn't have my grandmother over.
I'm looking at the IMDb listing here, Justin, and there is the runtime is 110 minutes or 65 minutes in its softcore version.
Okay.
So that's quite a drastic difference.
Well, you can imagine what the rest of the
45 minutes that are cut out of the softcore version consist of. Yeah,
there's a lot of whole, put it that way.
And what's funny is that with pornography, you can kind of get away with that kind of stereotyping. But if this were like a standard comedy, people would be up in arms about it. I guess they'd say that you're stereotyping, the gay community, or you're making light of them. Whereas in a pornography film, for some reason, it comes off as just funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well,
there are no bears, Eric. I'm afraid.
Oh well, I won't be watching.
I didn't see any. And like Justin, though, I didn't watch the whole thing from beginning to end, but I didn't see any bears.
No, but yes, well, I shall watch it in bits, as it were. So, I think we should probably get on to what we haven't done for a little while.
Our bottom threes.
Our bottom. You're talking of bottoms.
Top three bottoms.
Yes, we are. Back to our top three. So this is the bottom. What was it? The bottom final girl or final boy, wasn't it? So the worst or the most irritating or whatever final girl or final boy. So I think without further ado, let's... Erik, do you want to come in after this and tell us who is your bottom number three? Oh, I just realised I did that wrong, didn't I? Oh, sorry. Well, you've got an extra. You've got an extra cat.
Long, you've forgotten. Yeah.
It's been so long that I've forgotten. So, but you've got an extra cat. You'll get one for your number two. So.
Okay. I wish my cats knew how to flush a toilet.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Well, they have to use the toilet first.
Yeah. Well, one of them uses the bathtub.
Oh, really? Well, that's a step up.
In the guest bathroom, he uses the bathtub, which I don't mind because you could just rinse it down the drain.
Be careful using any face packs at your house, Joseph.
Yes.
Hey, my house smells good for, having over 10 animals.
Yeah, blimey. Okay. God. Right.
Okay. Number three
Yes.
is Jensen Daggett, who plays Rennie in Friday the 13th, Part 8, and her stupid boyfriend, Scott Reeves, who plays Sean. Not the actor's fault, but the two characters in it are just so incredibly dull. They're a black hole of personality. And now the storyline in Part 8 is that Rennie has had an encounter with Jason when she was young, and it means that for the rest of the film she sort of mopes around, in this attempt to show that she's, quote, troubled. And that just makes her sort of unlikable and unrelatable, in my opinion. And she walks through the film as if she's just been pumped full of morphine. I just find her incredibly dull. And I find the film quite drab as well, to be honest. I think the bitchy Tamara is a much more fun character, and she gets killed off way too early, in my opinion. So yeah, that's again a film I'm not very fond of, and one of the flaws of the film is that it has a pretty unlikable. She's not dislikable, but she's just boring. Final girl, it's Jensen Daggett as Rennie.
And also that film, that her and her boyfriend have got the worst hair of the whole series, haven't they?
The most dated hairstyles, even more dated than Tiffany Helm in Part 5 with her new wave haircut.
Yeah, it's just kind of like
it's been so long since I've seen Jason Takes. It's Jason Takes Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it. I don't even really remember, what they looked like. I do know that Jensen Daggett was at one of the conventions we were at, and she really has aged well.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not. She's probably a great actress, but she's just been given a terrible role
and terrible hairdo. Because I very much doubt she's got the same hair now as she did then. If you imagine, it's kind of like if someone got 100 ginger people shaved their pubes and stuck it to her head, it would be a bit like that, wouldn't it?
Wow, talk about lowering the tone. I was going to say, imagine Carol Decker from T'Pau, and that's...
I'd rather not.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I think that, she's a little bland, but, I think her love interest is very attractive.
You're so
just
shallow.
saying.
Okay. But
he was on one of my one of the soap operas I used to watch, so that's how I remember him.
Okay. Was anyone else, Joseph? Have you got any views on the final girl from that film?
Well, as I said, I mean, it's been so long since I've seen it, I can barely remember it. I mean, I'm sure as we go through the Friday the 13th films, we'll eventually get to it, but I just don't really remember. It's been, I bet it's been 15 years since I've seen that movie.
It's such a great premise, isn't it? It's just it's a shame that it's so cheap.
1 through 7, Friday the 13th, 1 through 7, I can remember, I just watched them yesterday, but 8, 9, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, I don't remember much about any of those.
No, fair enough. Well, thank you, Erik, for that. We'll look forward to see what's your bottom two. But next up, Joseph, do you want to tell us what's your number 3?
Yeah, my number 3 is from one of my favorite slasher films, but I just think she's a very dull final girl, and it's Lily from House of Death, played by the Playboy model, Susan Kiger. And Nathan and I have discussed this so many times, it's kind of old news by now, but we thought that, the Ramona character was far more interesting, and sympathetic. And I would liked her to have been the final girl. But instead, Lily's just kind of this, just kind of a dull girl next door type who just kind of stares blankly at the screen, and she doesn't really put much of a fight at the end with the killer. I mean, she does dispatch him, but it's just almost by accident. And I don't know, I just didn't really like her. I wanted someone else to be the final girl, and they could have written her character out of the film, and I would have liked it probably even more than I do now. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay. No, well, it's a film, obviously, we discussed on the podcast way back in the mist of time. I can't remember which episode it was, but...
2 years ago, almost.
Yeah, well. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what do you think, Nathan? Are you in agreement with that?
I mean, I always thought Ramona would have made a better heroine. What I'm kind of curious about, though, is how Joseph would have felt if the grandmother would have been the heroine.
Well, I've always said that, the grandmother and Lily's grandmother deserved to get she's in a wheelchair. I thought she kind of deserved to be rolled into oncoming traffic.
Joseph, that's not very charitable.
She's such a man-hater. She's such a man-hater. Yes. Every time she's all happy and smiley, but then the scene where they're at the carnival and they're talking to, I can't remember the girl's name, but her boyfriend is played by Kurt Rector, who we've interviewed. And the minute he pops up on screen, her demeanor just changes, and then she's just cold, and you want her to die.
Well,
just for being so sexist.
Because you said when we
I would never be so sexist.
A long time ago. Yeah, right. A long time ago. And it was when they were at the fair, and she's like, her friend is trying to help her, and she just keeps being nagging and everything. And Joe said, well, he goes, I guess I would just take her wheelchair and push it into the lake. Yeah. And I don't know. That was just really funny because it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joseph,
I have my moments.
For your disableist, whatever.
Okay,
it is,
I'm disableist, but I'm not sexist. There.
Yes. Well, there you go. Okay.
I guess I'm probably both, but forget it.
Well, we won't go there, Joseph, but we maybe will for your next choice. We'll see. But Nathan, what's your number 3?
Before I say my number 3, I was going to say that I was going to pick A.J. Cook's character in Ripper Letter from Hell, but I don't know if I can fairly call her a final girl, so I decided not to go with it. But just so everybody knows, she's one of my least favorites ever. So just saying. But my number 3 is Jennifer from Movie House Massacre. She is so bland. I mean, she is one of the blandest heroines I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I think Selena would have been a much better choice for the final girl.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I knew you'd agree with that, Justin.
She would have told the killer to sit on this bitch.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, throughout the whole movie, I mean, obviously Jennifer's the good girl and Selena's kind of the evil one, but I would totally want to hang out with Selena more than Jennifer. I mean, come on, in the one scene where Selena flashes her boyfriend, it shows Jennifer leaving the movie theater covering her boyfriend's eyes. I'm like, oh, God, you're pathetic. Please move along.
Was she the one that got replaced at short notice? Or she replaced somebody. Wasn't it somebody?
She's the one that, when I did the interview with Rick Sloan, I believe he said that, she did most of the scenes, but towards the end, she just left. She just quit. So they had to put a wig on somebody else and, film, some of the ending scenes without her.
No,
and he also called her a bitch. So I guess she wasn't very
So true colours are coming out now, aren't they? Well, thank you, Nathan. I think anything else you want to say about your third least favourite final girl?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I'm going to go. Mine's actually a final boy, and one of the very rare final boys from early 80s slashers, and that's Alfred from The Burning. And I think he was called Alfred, wasn't he? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the actor's name, but I love The Burning. That's Brian Backer, that's right.
Yeah.
But I thought the character was kind of quite wimpy, and he's quite annoying and a bit creepy. There's lots of, like in the early Harry Potter movies when, he was like that. And he said every time something happened, he conveyed emotion or shock by just standing there and his eyes bugging out and his mouth slightly agape. And that was it, really. And he just, he didn't, I thought it's really interesting to have a final boy rather than a final girl, but he didn't rise to the occasion as far as I was concerned. He's a bit too, he's one of these kind of people you wanted to slap, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't condone bullying. Shut up, Erik. I don't condone bullying, but every time Glazer picked on him, I didn't really feel any sympathy for him because he just seemed so creepy and kind of... It's kind of the kind of person you'd have suspicions about. Like, I think this guy's going to end up, killing a small animal, and he's going to go from that and kill somebody eventually. He just had that kind of vibe about him. So, yeah, I didn't like him either.
Yeah, and in one of his very first scenes in the film, he's spying on that girl in the shower. Which
I didn't mind Todd. Who Todd kind of took over towards the end.
Yeah, Todd was more, because it kind of had a sort of a dual kind of final boy, didn't it, with Todd, as obviously the older.
Yeah.
He kind of, he sort of took over. But
Jason Alexander was easily the best thing in that film.
Yeah. Even though he probably won't talk about it. And I wonder with
he has talked about it once before.
Yeah, but I just kind of, with Scream Factory, I wonder if they're going to be, because obviously they're putting The Burning Out on Blu-ray, which will be great. And sort of see what they, what they dig up, because I think
Holly Hunter.
I very much doubt it. Well, Shelley Bruce and Bonnie Dorosky and people like that still kind of talk about it and do, they seem to have quite a lot of affection for the film. But the Holly Hunters of this world and Jason Alexander's probably aren't particularly interested in talking about it. But it would be great if they got a few kind of a cast members back together. I'm sure Shelley Bruce and Bonnie Dorosky and a few of the other cast would love to do a cast commentary on that. But I don't know what Scream Factory's is thinking about doing, because I've several times I've kind of offered to give them, well, not give them, but my memorabilia for the film or for a number of films, and they've never got back to me on that. So, which is a shame, really, because I don't want any money for it. I just thought it'd be nice to share it, but there you go. And
I'm not going to say much about the burning, because I'm sure we will cover it eventually. But I do have to say I want to buy that Blu-ray just for the artwork alone. The one someone posted online, the people in the river of blood, and then Cropsy's standing over the river of blood with the shears.
Yeah,
I think that's really great artwork.
Yeah, I think it'll be great, and so I'm looking forward to that. And Scream Factory always put together really, really good packages. So
speaking of DVDs you're involved with, Justin, this is on a tangent, but High Rising Productions have announced that Slice and Dice, the Slasher Film Forever documentary, has a final release date now of May the 13th. Now, you've done a commentary for that, haven't you?
Not yet, no.
Oh, you haven't recorded it yet, no?
No, in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
I'm going to be recording a commentary with Callum for that. I'm going to be
what
moderating.
Film is it?
It's a slasher movie documentary.
That's right. Yeah, okay.
But we're also doing a separate DVD. I think it's going to be on a separate DVD of trailers. So I'm going to be
it's going to be released with Slice and Dice, is it? Or?
Yes, yeah. So slasher movie trailers, and we're going to do commentaries for each one. So like a real kind of fast 2 or 3 minute commentary for each trailer. So
yeah, because they do that on some of the 42nd Street Forever Blu-rays, and it's really great fun.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to doing that. It should be really good fun. So I'm actually going up to Glasgow for the showing of the film there. So it's going to be
all right, because that's what they say, that the reason it's been put back to May the 13th is so they can include the Q&A in Glasgow on the final disc. So you'll be on that on camera.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be part of the Q&A, because I think that's with Norman Warren, the director. They're going to be doing a Q&A with, but I'll be doing the commentary. So got my tickets all planned. So so I'll let you know how that goes.
Very good.
Excellent. Right. Well, I think actually now back in the groove, it is time for Erik. It is your So what's your big number 2, Erik?
Okay, my big number 2 is Ellie Cornell as Rachel in Halloween 4. And I suppose she's sort of joint number 2 with Danielle Harris as Jamie as well. Now, Danielle Harris was lovely. I met her at the Horror-thon in Dublin, as I said, back in October. But, I mean, the two of them together are just so incredibly dull in Halloween 4. You know, if you've listened to the podcast at all, you know I'm not a fan of the film. I think Halloween 5 is a much better film. The script for Halloween 4 was sort of rushed together to avoid a writer's strike. And, you know, it really shows because the character of Rachel is just so whiny and annoying and totally devoid of personality. And again, it's probably not Ellie Cornell's fault. The blame should be aimed probably at the shoddy script. You know, it's difficult for any actress to make much of a script that requires her to say Jamie over and over again. You know, Jamie, Jamie. Kathleen Kinmont, I mean, we were talking there about House of Death and how sort of secondary characters are far more interesting. And that's a case I find with Halloween 4. I think Kathleen Kinmont as Kelly is a standout character for me. And I think she probably would have made a good final girl because, you know, although she gets her tits out and she shags her best friend's boyfriend, you know, the bland, scrunchy-faced Brady, who if he had survived to the end of the film would have made my top 3 because I really didn't like him. You know, I still find that Kelly is really likable and far more fun. Yeah. So Ellie Cornell as Rachel in Halloween 4, I'm afraid, and I was kind of glad to see her killed off in part 5. Spoiler alert.
God, we're really spreading the hate, aren't we, with these top 3?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, no, fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, in fairness, Jensen Daggett and Ellie Cornell's characters, I don't hate them. I just find them a bit boring. You know, they're the complete antithesis of Amy Steele, I find.
Yes. No, absolutely. What? Any views? Any kind of strong for or against Joseph and Nathan?
It's another movie I don't really remember very well. I mean, I like the first 2 Halloween films, and after that I could take them or leave them, so I don't really remember, so I don't really have much of an opinion on her.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I love the first 2, and 3 is fun too, but for some reason 4 and 5, like, all I remember is Tina, and that's from part 5. I love Tina.
Yeah, Tina rules.
Well,
Tina should have survived. What was up with that?
I don't know. An outrage.
Well,
very outraged.
Thank you, Erik. And Nathan.
Sorry, Joseph. Justin, what do you think of
I don't.
Rachel?
Well, I do remember it. I don't remember hating Halloween 4. I seem to remember thinking Halloween 4 was better than Halloween 5, but I think I might think differently if I rewatched it. I can't remember. I remember thinking that Halloween 4 they obviously put some care into the way it looked, and tried to replicate the feel and stuff of the other films, but I don't remember it that well actually. I need to revisit it. So that's mine, but that's my little opinion, not worth much, but there you go. So Joseph, your number 2 coming up after this. Okay, Joseph, what's your big number 2?
I sure did miss that feisty feline. Speaking of animals, my number 2 is Courtney from Final Exam. And I say speaking of animals because I think she's very horse-like. I often rag on Jamie Lee Curtis. But this woman is like...
Yes, very often.
This woman is the epitome of Clydesdale. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to get that out of my system. No, Courtney is another one of those... I just find her bland. I mean, she doesn't really do anything except, all she ever talks about is studying. And, everyone else around her is kind of like, kind of up in arms about this whole killing spree. And then you get the Radish character who's kind of obsessed with the serial killer type goings on. And I know he likes horror films. And I kind of like, I don't really care much for Final Exam. I won't say much else because I'm sure that is another one we will cover eventually. But I kind of actually liked some of the characters in the film, but the final girl I just thought was bland. Like a lot of these picks, we're picking them because they're just dull, and she's just dull. I don't, I wanted someone else to be the final girl. And unfortunately, I don't really remember a whole lot about Final Exam enough to say, I'd rather had this character be the final girl. So I can't tell you who I'd want to be the final girl, but
Radish
it's not
a good final girl.
Yes,
yeah,
Radish
I think he would have been
a good
interesting,
final girl.
actually. Yeah, I mean, because he's an interesting character. I just think Courtney is very bland, and that's my 2 cents on that. For my number 2. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. No, well, thank you, Joseph. I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
So, although I think I probably like Final Exam a little bit more than you do. But what about you, Eric and Nathan?
Well, that's not what your Hysteria Lives review says. You didn't like it in that review.
Yeah,
and I know that was a long time
mind.
ago, but I'm holding it. I'm holding you to it. You're not.
I probably wrote that. I wrote that about 13 years ago.
Movies.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I said Justin's opinions have changed on a lot of movies.
That is very true, actually. That is very true. When
Not to go off subject again, but have you ever? I mean, I know it's a lot of work. Have you ever thought about going and revising some of your older reviews that you've changed your opinion on?
I have thought about it. Yes.
You just want
Well, I have done it for some of them, like with The Burning and Happy Birthday to Me. When I did the retrospectives.
All the whiskey and cross-dressing gets in the way.
What for?
I mean, all the graveyard soliloquies and stuff like
graveyard
that.
moping, yeah, that gets in the way as well.
Yeah. There's only so much time in the week, isn't there? So
yeah.
And watching Toya videos and laughing at them, there's only so much I can fit in.
Ooh,
sticks and stones.
Mind you, we did watch that Thunder in the Mountains video, Eric, and you've got to admit that is hilarious, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
I wouldn't say hilarious. I'd say brilliant is a better description.
It's got this wizard keeps on covering his ears, doesn't he? And it's just yeah.
It's got Toya on a
you blame
chariot.
him? Exactly, but it's got. Was that her real hair? If you go to YouTube,
I wouldn't say so. It's too big. Did you know? Have I ever told you the story that my sister used to tell me that Toya and Kim Wilde used to get their hairstyles by they used to put tiny explosives on their scalp.
Really?
That's what she told me when I was really young.
Well, mind you, I could believe it looking at Toya's hair doing that, because I mean that's the biggest hair I've ever seen on a human being.
Yeah, I imagine it was a wig, surely.
It must have been a wig, because it was just this massive, kind of like a massive cheesy what's-it, wasn't it, on her head? It was just huge. It was like the size of Saturn, wasn't it? It was huge. So
it was like a huge, big 70s afro, just orange.
But it was kind of backcombed into these kind of, and it was amazing. Just stayed there, and she's in a chariot, like Queen of Boadicea. But I loved it when she was going through that tunnel, and because her hair was so big, she had to put her head to one side, because otherwise she would have been scalped. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's off subject.
Oh, God, I love Toya.
Well, I'm sure she's glad somebody does. So, where were we? We were talking about Final Exam, weren't we? Is that everything you wanted to say about Final Exam? So,
yeah, I mean, I don't remember a whole lot, and I'm sure we'll cover it eventually, and I'll rewatch it. But I do remember her being very bland, so that's why I picked her.
Okay,
I liked her.
So did I, to a degree.
Yeah, I thought she was very helpful to all her friends. She was very nice and friendly,
I agree.
Well, I mean, if you want a study buddy, she'd be the person to go to, but not when you want someone to battle a big hulking maniac.
Although she does quite well in the thing, and also in the book, she makes friends with an owl. I seem to remember, so it gives a little bit.
She makes friends with an owl.
Yes.
What?
It's in the book. In the book, the Final Exam book, she because it doesn't really go at the end of the film, Final Exam, where she battles the killer in that kind of clock tower or that kind of tower. In the book, she kind of goes up there to study, and there's an owl that she makes friends with. Oh. So there you go. So a little bit of character development, not much, but a little bit there. So okay, but Nathan, I think it's your turn for a little. Okay, Nathan, what's your big number 2?
My big number 2 would be Marcia from Sleepaway Camp Part 3. Even though I love that movie, I adore it. Her character really bugs me. During the whole movie, she's kind of set up to be the final girl, even though she has sex with Tony. And, she's kind of got this thing going on with him. But, I mean, through the whole movie, she's a pretty nice, friendly character. And I thought, okay, I like her. And at the very end, when all the carnage has gone down and everything's said and done, she's in the cop car with Tony, and Tony's like, well, he goes, I'm going to come to where you are. He's like, when and we can be together and all that stuff. And then she just goes, Tony, I kind of already have a boyfriend, but you can come visit me. I'm like, what is up with that? I mean, she leads him on during this whole movie and just to shoot him down. Not to mention the fact that she cheated on her boyfriend. I'm like, what is wrong with you, Marcia?
Did she die? Did she die in the end?
No, she lived.
Well, there you go.
So, that she was kind of a bad girl, which I guess is kind of a twist because she fooled Angela. Angela thought she was a good girl. That's why she didn't kill her. But she's also kind of a crap heroine in a way because there's the scene where Angela, who is 100 pounds at most, I mean, Marcia's a little bit bigger than she is, and there's the scene where Marcia's backed up against a tree and Angela, like, on a weak ankle, like she already hurt her ankle, is limping to her, and Angela's like, don't make me hurt you. And she's like, come on, and she grabs her and, like, takes her to the cabin and ties her up. And I remember one time I watched the movie, my mom was watching that part, and my mom goes, I think I could whoop her. I'm just saying.
No, well, fair enough.
So, yeah.
I haven't seen either of those films, 2 and 3, for so long. I don't think I've actually seen uncut versions of them, so it'd be interesting to see if we ever cover them on the podcast, which I'm sure we probably will at some point.
I like Angela's hair in part 3.
Oh, yes.
Even though they were shot back-to-back, weren't they?
Yes.
So
I think she's wearing a wig in part 3, is it?
It's probably, I mean, it kind of looks like it's a wig. Because I think her whole thing with part 3 is, she's masquerading as another girl, so she's trying to mimic her hairstyle, so she looks closer to her, I guess.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Is there anything else we want to say about that final girl?
She's just nothing like you.
Yeah. When you said Marcia, that was the first thing that popped into my head. I haven't seen Sleepaway Camp 3 in so long that I'd need to rewatch it. I can't even remember the final girl. All I remember is Angela's great hair.
Okay.
That's how I feel about Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. I mean, for some odd reason, I watch them regularly. I don't know why. I don't really care much for them. But, I could watch it like a week ago. I didn't, but I could say I did, and I'd forget about it. So I don't really remember much about her.
But I could quote both of those movies from beginning to end.
I'm just an unabashed fan of the first one.
Okay, well, actually,
I'm the opposite of you. I prefer the sequels. Yeah. Not part 4. Not part 4. Just saying.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, thank you, Nathan. I shall give myself a little... Well, my big number 2 is Judy from Shadows Run Black, which was the 1981 slash movie that wasn't released until about 1986. I think it was released finally to cash in on Kevin Costner's sort of rise to fame, because Kevin Costner kind of made this along with Sizzle Beach USA, kind of sexploitation sort of comedy beach movie he made in 1981 as well. Now, Judy in Shadows Run Black, I mean, Shadows Run Black is an awful movie. It's quite funny, but it's probably, I think when I read back of my review on Hysteria Lives, I said it was a Plan 9 from outer space of slasher movies. And Judy, the reason Judy's on here is because Judy's got, she was obviously hired for reasons other than acting ability. And she's just got she has no emotion or anything. She just kind of, people say stuff to her and all she does is raise an eyebrow slightly, whatever emotion she's got, whether it's fear, happiness, laughter. Her face is, she's got a Botox face before they had Botox. But she's quite funny. She's quite funny in some scenes because when she's running away from the killer, she's one of the only final girls to be wearing stiletto heels, and so she kind of clip-clops her way down a corridor, which isn't the best way to avoid a psychotic killer, I don't think, running away in high heels. And also she goes to bed with all her makeup on, which I think is a no-no, apparently. So yeah, apparently. But she's just incredibly bland, and she's just got one look. Her face just doesn't change at all throughout it. So because she's got no acting ability and no emotive ability at all, it's very difficult to invest any time or energy with a character that bland. So that is my number 2 is Judy from Shadows Run Black. So have any of you, I presume some of you seen that film. Do you remember it?
Unfortunately.
Wow, I've seen it, but I remember nothing.
Yeah, I've seen it. Like, all I can remember is Kevin Costner. I can't remember Judy, so I need to rewatch it.
I'd quite like to pick it because it is one of those. I think it'd be quite a funny film to talk about because it is ridiculous. It is really, really bad, and it's almost Nail Gun Massacre bad. I think in some ways, but maybe not quite as funny. But I think sometimes talking about the worst films probably a bit more entertaining. Yes. So that is my number 2. But we are coming on to our number 1s, aren't we? So who goes first? I can't remember now. Was it
me?
Erik?
Me.
Yes. What's your big number 1?
Okay, my big number 1 is, no surprises, probably the ghastly Laurie Strode from the 2007 remake of Halloween and Halloween 2 as well. I just don't understand how they ever thought it would be a good idea to turn the most lovable of final girls into this potty-mouthed chav. The film has many flaws. The list is endless as far as I'm concerned. But the biggest flaw is turning Laurie into this shrill and incredibly unlikable presence. Never before have I wanted a final girl to die horribly. I mean, I was saying about my number 3 and my number 2, my big problem was that they were bland. I didn't actually hate them. But in this instance, I actually hated the final girl and wanted to see her die quite horribly, if possible. And that's not a good sign for a film. I mean, there's, as I said, many problems. There's a laughably awful Malcolm McDowell presence, and in Halloween 2, the ludicrous and pretentious dream sequences involving white horses. So every nook and cranny of the 2 Halloween remake films are just absolutely horrendous with no redeeming features. And the biggest problem is the unlikability of Laurie Strode, I found.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine there isn't going to be any dissent with Joseph Nathan there, is there?
None. There's no dissent here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I didn't really like her in part 1, but, I didn't hate her. But in part 2, I hated her.
I hated her in part 2, yeah.
I mean, I think that they're trying... Oh, I'm sorry, Erik, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, I thought they were trying, she'd been through a lot, so she was damaged. But, I mean, she just came off as one of them. I mean, who would want to be around her? I mean, I know. I felt bad for Annie, Danielle Harris' character Annie. I thought, man, I'm like, she's way more likable, and she went through worse than you did, I think.
I know. Yeah, I just remember from Halloween 2, I think it was, Laurie driving and just shouting a stream of swear words because she just found out that she's Michael's sister or something. I can't remember. And I was sitting in the cinema just going, I want to leave. I've spent €10, so I probably should stay, but I just want to go home. I just can't take any more of this.
That's how I felt about both films. I think they're just... I just don't get. I mean, it has a popularity base. I just don't get it. I mean, those 2 movies are what I hate about most modern slasher films. They're so annoying and shrill, and the characters are so unlikable. And especially Laurie, who's the final girl of all things. Yeah. Wow. I mean, talk about you want someone to die. It's her.
Definitely. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? Now, when we covered The Last Slumber Party, you all said that the lead girl in it was an unlikable asshole, I believe is what Justin called her.
I would never use such language.
So, which character could you stomach more?
Definitely Last Slumber Party Massacre.
Yeah,
I would go with Last Slumber Party.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, well. Yeah, wow.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who regularly listens to the show will know that we have no... we're not big fans of Rob Zombie's revisioning or whatever, destroying the Halloween.
He can
franchise.
go fuck himself.
Quite literally, yes.
Put it politely, yes. But I mean, I'd still like to see a Rob Zombie film that I like. I still haven't actually. I've not seen The Devil's Rejects, and I've heard that's all right. I hated.
I didn't like Devil's Rejects. I know a lot of people think it's his best work, but
I thought Devil's Reject was just okay. It's a one-time watch, but I'd never watch it again.
But I really hated House of 1,000 Corpses, or whatever it was.
Yeah, terrible.
That was awful. But I mean, I gave him the benefit of the doubt with Halloween, but I just remember sitting there exactly like Erik was saying, I was just sitting there watching it thinking, my God, what the hell is this? And I can appreciate someone, taking something and not slavishly remaking it, and doing trying something different. But unfortunately, this didn't work. But it does have a fan base. Some people do like it, and
more than the original, I've heard.
Yeah. But there you go. So, yes, well, Erik, I think you may have probably got the... Well, it remains to be seen if anyone can top Erik. So...
Yeah, good luck with that.
It's a big mountain to climb.
It is.
Yes. Well, let's have a little...
pond there.
Splendid girl, and so helpful. Do you know she's been showing me how to stick the pole up?
So... Joseph, what's your number one?
My number one is, no, I must say I have a predilection for girls named BJ, but unfortunately not for this one. It's BJ from Island of Blood, which is another film I like a lot that we've covered. She's kind of the antithesis of what a final girl should be. I mean, she's unlikable, and she's not the virginal final girl. She sleeps around just to kind of further her career. And yeah, she is a little dull as well. And she's just, you don't care about her. I mean, she's not, like I said, she's not very likable at all. I know Nathan has said this before as well as have I, but I think the Donna Lincoln character who gets boiled in the acid shower should have been the final girl because I found her more interesting. And I just don't understand what they were going for with this BJ character. I mean, just some of the underhanded things she does just to kind of, get ahead. How are you supposed to root for her? I mean, it's kind of an odd character choice for a final girl. So, yeah, so that's my number one, BJ from Island of Blood. Not to mention Barry Suber, who plays BJ, has like all the acting talent of a, of a thimble maybe. I don't know.
Mahmood.
Mahmood's probably more likable at least.
I don't. It's funny because although we've covered Island of Blood not that long ago, I can't really remember.
I'm glad you said that,
it.
Justin, because I can't either, and I can't remember the final girl from House of Death either.
I can remember a bit better.
We're going to recover both of them now.
No, we're not covering. For God's sake,
Justin's reaction to that, no.
I do remember. Hurt me, hurt me, face to face. I remember that bit.
How could you forget that? No one could forget that.
Yeah. Let me just say, if we covered those again, then I demand we also recover Crazy Fat Ethel Part 2.
No.
No,
that's not.
Hell no.
Why do you guys hate me?
Well, I'll tell you what, the irony, it'll probably be Vinegar Syndrome, but that's probably one of the titles that they're going to do, isn't it?
Yeah. That'd be amazing.
Then we'll have to do a commentary. So... right, well, Joseph, thank you very much for that. That was you, wasn't it? So I'm losing track now. But, yes, it was you, wasn't it? Who was...
Yes, that was me.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah. Okay, well, Nathan
next, yeah.
Nathan, what's your big number one?
Well, I mean, big number one is one that I know many people disagree with, but, I'm just sticking to my guns here. It's TJ from My Bloody Valentine. He is horrible. He is a horrible, horrible person.
I say it again.
Wow, the gasp is really back.
Yeah.
All right. So, he leaves town without telling anybody. People move on with their lives as they do. And then he comes back and expects that everybody drop everything so he can pick up right where he left off. And the way he is towards Axel is absolutely despicable. Like, he is so, cruel to Axel, because Axel and Sarah have gotten together now. They've become a couple, and he kind of just rubs it in Axel's face that if he wants Sarah back, he can get her, and that's all there is to it, And I mean, I don't know how, he could be likable, acting that way, acting the way he does, and I don't know. He strikes me as somebody who's very full of himself. I think that he thought that he could leave town and, make it on his own, and he failed miserably. That's what he deserves.
Oh.
And
we're getting all these things off our chest, aren't we? Here,
Yeah.
we're kind of,
yes.
probably making no friends.
This is like a therapy session for us. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Well,
Well, what do you
nobody
think?
ever talks about how wrong this character is. I think they love him because of his accent and his ascot, which I will admit that's pluses for him. I'm not gonna lie, but just doing things like rubbing it in Axel's face, and then later when he's talking to Hollis and he says something like, "Well, really, it's nobody's fault," and I'm like, "Yes, it is. It's your fault." I mean, you're not a teenager anymore, TJ. It's time to grow up. But I will give him points for he did go down in the mine to rescue them. So, I guess he gets a few points for that.
Oh, there you go. Well, controversial there, Nathan. Obviously, I'll go to Erik because you had your gasp.
No, I can see where Nathan is coming from. I don't find him that dislikable because his main beef is with Axel, who himself is really unlikable. So that doesn't bother me.
Yes,
What
but
about you,
TJ
Joseph?
doesn't know that Axel's a murderer.
Yeah, I know, but even you can tell Axel is kind of like as arrogant as TJ is.
I would probably agree with Nathan to an extent. I found like his personality was kind of off, but at the same time, he was somewhat likable. I mean, he's human.
Yeah. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Dylan from Beverly Hills 90210. He's kind of the moody, intense one that has a heart of gold.
Yeah, that's kind of what I get from him. He's kind of like, I guess he's human. I mean, I was kind of irritated. I kind of felt more sympathy for Axel because, he did the right thing and, moving on, him and Sarah, they got into a relationship. They didn't think TJ was coming back, so what have you. TJ comes back and then he just expects everything, just no matter what changes were in the town, he expects everything to go back the way it was, and that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, well, you can feel all the sympathy you want for Axel. Just don't come running to me when he sticks a pickaxe in your head.
I just felt that we could have done with a scene of TJ. I don't know. I mean, I know there's that scene with him and Sarah on the cliff, but that's more about him wanting to get her back. I just thought we could have done with, I don't know, maybe a better scene between him and Axel. I don't know. Maybe where we could see that he's a little more human and not, not just an arrogant jerk.
Well, it's curious, isn't it? With the remake, they use the same kind of background story more or less, didn't they? They kind of changed things around a bit, but I didn't mind. I mean, I quite like the fact that he's quite flawed in some ways. I think kind of added to the charm for me, but I can certainly see where you're coming from with that. So, okay. Well, should I go on to my number one to round things off, which would be even more, perhaps?
No, let's leave it a mystery. Let's see if people can guess.
What my one? Well, you know what my one is anyway, because I already told you. But my one is Sidney Prescott in the Scream series, and
gasp.
Well, it's kind of, I feel conflicted with this because I really like the Scream films, especially the first two. And I quite like Sydney as a character, and I think Neve Campbell is a good actress. But there's something about her. I know she goes through an awful lot in these movies, but there's something quite pinched about her. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of slightly. She's a bit kind of like. I just almost get the feeling that the films are a little bit beneath her. I don't think she, obviously, like many actors and actresses have been in slasher movies, don't really want to come back unless they're contractually obliged to. Although, ironically, apparently I heard that she was willing to do Scream 5, but that probably isn't going to happen. It's actually Wes Craven who's saying he doesn't want to do it now. But then, nothing against Neve Campbell, but her career's not really stellar, is it? She's not doing lots of A-list kind of projects elsewhere. But yeah, I find her character just a little bit pinched and a bit kind of mopey, and I can understand why she would be, but I don't know, there's something that riffs, and so I feel quite conflicted with Sidney Prescott, that I kind of like her, but she's not as, I don't know. What do you think? Is it just me, or is there...
I kind of understand what you're talking about, because as much as I like the Scream films, well, not part 4, but, the first 3, I get the feeling that in the first film, Neve Campbell was kind of, she's kind of likable and kind of peppy, but in like 2, 3, and especially 4, she just kind of seems like she's doing it just, kind of going through the motions to collect a paycheck. She's not very, interesting to watch. Whereas in the first one she is, but in 2, 3, and 4, I would, prefer to follow around Courtney Cox.
Well,
I've always preferred Gail Weathers.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. My thinking is that, like I was saying with Jensen Daggett in Friday Part 8, if you're going to introduce a final girl who's, quote, troubled, I mean, you're treading on thin ice, because usually these troubled characters, as Justin was saying, tend to be mopey. I haven't seen any of the Twilight films, but I imagine that Kristen Stewart in it is kind of like Sidney Prescott.
I've been dragged to see.
Well, that's kind of insulting. Come on.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the Scream series anyway, and I would agree wholeheartedly with Justin. So I do find her a bit mopey. Again, not Neve Campbell's fault, but just the fact that she has to play this sort of troubled character. It'd be nice if she had a sense of fun about her, even in the first film, but she doesn't.
See, I thought she did in the first film.
I think she probably does in the first film a bit more. But then she's always got that whole thing about her mother, I can understand the whole backstory.
Yeah.
And obviously she would be probably a bit mopey and a bit troubled, but it's kind of, I kind of guess once you've had Jamie Lee Curtis or an Amy Steele, you're kind of a bit spoiled, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
We have been spoiled.
I think Jamie Lee Curtis did the troubled character much better in H2O than Neve Campbell does. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, no matter who you compare them to, I think Jamie Lee Curtis is always going to win the race.
Oh.
No, I know what you're doing.
Oh, Joseph. Well, I think
so
on that bombshell, I think we should tie this.
You need to have your butt dragged down to the basement of sorority house and spanked with a cricket
I think
bat.
Nathan had a question. If we can just move on from that.
Yes.
All I wanted to say is, because y'all had mentioned, and it reminded me of it, y'all had mentioned, like, if you introduce a troubled heroine, that it's hard to, find her interesting. Do y'all feel that way about Tina in Friday the 13th Part 7? Because, her character's troubled through the whole movie.
I don't find her dislikable, but I find her a bit boring.
Okay.
She's a little whiny.
Well,
she's just somebody.
The 13th Part 7.
Yeah, for somebody with telekinesis, she should be a bit more peppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she could do all kinds of tricks, and she's sitting there whining the whole time.
I know. Yeah. Well,
like she could make any person's clothes fall off. I mean, imagine having that ability.
Yes.
Why didn't she become this, huge celebrity? I'm the one who finally brought Jason Voorhees down. Come to my, sideshow carnival. You can see him spin in the air, and he won't let him down. He'll just be stuck up there.
She's shacking up with Kevin Blair's character. That's what she's doing.
Well, I don't think he's shacking up with her.
Not in real life. No.
His character.
Yeah.
What are you insinuating?
Oh, nothing. Well, we'll probably talk about that when we do next time's choice.
Next week
we'll talk about Friday the 13th, Part 7, when we cover it.
Yeah, of course.
Did you just say Friday?
Fried egg.
I said Friday the 13th.
I did say Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Because a lot of the actors in that movie were gay.
Yeah.
They talk about it in Camp Crystal Lake Memories.
Every single one of them?
Not every one of them, but a lot of them, yeah.
Including Weekend at Bernie's?
I know William Butler was, and the lead guy, Kevin Blair. I didn't know anyone else
and was. The dude that was with Melissa in Bad, the one that she was using to make Kevin Blair jealous.
Oh, the science fiction guy. Yeah.
The science fiction guy. Yeah, he was too.
Huh. Wow.
Is Jason gay?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Of course.
That's why.
You never see Jason go after, or try to romance any of the women, right?
No,
of course, he don't want the guys either. Maybe he's just asexual.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a character assassinated lots of people and final girls and final boys.
We're probably never going to get these people on our show now.
No. So I think it's time. We're already at an hour and a half of wittering. So I think it's probably time to go on to the main feature, and I'll come back with an introduction to 1984's Silent Madness after we played a trailer.
These conditions are inhuman.
These patients are inhuman. We get all the weird ones, the real crazies.
Pam?
How can you and Dr. Kruger keep releasing patients as disabled as Romano?
I believe I know more about these matters than you do, Dr. Gilmore.
Oh my God. They released the wrong man.
Silent madness. A terrifying, suspense-filled voyage into the dark places of the mind. Inside your head, the screaming never stops. Silent madness.
Rated R. Inside your head, the screaming never stops. The dark descent into hell begins. When Howard Johns is accidentally released from Cresthaven Mental Hospital, he returns to Barrington College, the scene 20 years before of the brutal and vicious murders of a number of young and beautiful girls. Dr. Joan Gilmore, a psychiatrist, follows him, terrified that the horrific crimes of 20 years before will be reenacted. Sucked into a vortex of horror, Joan fights for her sanity and her life. Dare you watch it alone? Well, that is the back of the box of the UK video release, which I've got in front of me for Silent Madness, which has the great artwork of the killer pushing his nose up against a window, which isn't the scariest kind of things ever, I kind of guess. But Silent Madness was basically it's a slasher made at the tail end of the slasher movie boom. It was made in the summer of 1983, but didn't get a release until 84 and 85. It also stands out as, I kind of guess, probably a bit of a cash-in on the success of Friday the 13th Part 3, which released, I think it was released in 3D, obviously, and Silent Madness was filmed in 3D and released in 3D and also flat into some theatres across the States. It's one of those films that I just wanted to revisit because I didn't really remember it that well. The only thing that really stuck out for me was the amazing cheesy scene of two sorority girls being killed, one playing Dragon's Lair video game, which I remember from my childhood. And if you've ever played it, you might. I mean, it was video game which kind of had cartoon, like Disney cartoon type graphics, and it depended on which way you moved, it would cut as seamlessly as it could to the next scene, so you'd either survive or you'll die. And there's a fantastic scene where a girl's playing that in her dorm, in the dorm room, one of the dorm rooms, and the killer attacks and kills her, and also her friend is doing aerobics hanging upside down, and the killer kills her by tying a dumbbell on a bit of rope and throwing the dumbbell out the window. And I just thought that is probably, when it comes to 80s slashers, that is probably, if I had to pick a scene that encapsulated the best things of the cheesier end of 80s slashers, then that scene would definitely be in there. The film essentially is, I say, it's a real mishmash, because although it's set around a sorority and it's returning 20 years later, where a killer is, as you heard in the trailer, is released from psychiatric hospital because of a clerical error or a computer error, and a psychiatrist who basically believes it's been covered up takes it upon herself to find out what happened to this Howard Johns. And of course Howard Johns is this psychotic killer who's returned to the scene of the crime 20 years
he's also
earlier.
A fantastic 80s pop star.
That's Howard Jones, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
But
don't you ever make that mistake again.
Don't make that mistake again, no. And so But so you've got these kind of older characters, because the psychiatrist character must be in her 30s or even early 40s, and then you've got sorority girls, which are they're slightly more. What's strange about the film is they're slightly more peripheral characters than you would expect in a slasher movie, and I think possibly that's where the film falls down, because I think if it played more with the sorority sisters and the killer in the house, and played more on that end rather than the psychiatrist trying to track down the killer, it might have worked slightly better. Having said that, when this film does work, I think it works really well. And one of the things, I'd be interested to hear what obviously you guys think, but when we talk about 3D movies and saying about how 3D movies today, certainly films such as Prometheus and other ones seem, it's beneath filmmakers to poke anything in the viewers' faces and actually really... You know what I mean? We're not talking about the whole again here. What we're saying here is, but in Silent Madness, every opportunity is used to poke something at the audience, so it really goes to that gimmicky 3D. And obviously, I would love to see this film in 3D. Although I did hear that 3D wasn't particularly good when it was released, but I've got plenty more to say. But I'd be interested to hear, because we haven't actually talked about this, so I don't know what you guys think about the film. So I think I will start with my safe bet. Nathan, did you enjoy Silent Madness?
Oh, your safe bet, because I did. I loved Silent Madness. I've loved it, ever since I first watched it. I would say that I watched it in 3D, and I love how shameless they are about it. I mean, when things are sticking out of the screen, it's more shameless than Friday the 13th Part 3, in my opinion. I mean, it's very like, okay, we're just gonna have fun and throw stuff out of the screen into your face, like that axe when he throws it, and it hits the girl. That was great.
Did you watch it in 3D? You watched it in 3D?
Yes, I watched it in 3D.
And does it work in 3D? It's obviously the blue-red, isn't it? That 3D.
Yeah, it's that kind of 3D. And, it works, as well as you can expect. I mean, the picture quality was, very, very below average, but, it was still fun. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I love 3D, though. I've always loved watching movies in 3D. But, I mean, I also, I think, like, for me, it's like what you said, Justin. I love the scenes, like the two girls getting, murdered, like, one with the weights and the one at the arcade game. And I just, any scene there at the sorority house, I love, because I love the girls and I love the house mother, especially when you played the clip earlier, when the girl, she comes downstairs, she sees the girl, I guess, flashing, and she's just like, "You whore. You slut." Yeah. That's just like over the top funny to me. And then like when she's telling the flashback, she's narrating the flashback that she tells about when Howard, kills the girls, like, and she's very dramatic when she's like telling the story. I love that too. I guess for me, my only complaint is I wasn't really that into the movie when it was focused on the psychiatrist trying to figure out, if Howard Johns had been released and all that. I mean, that just to me was kind of meh. I just was like, get back to the sorority house. I want to get back to the sorority house immediately. So I guess that was my only complaint, is that anytime it wasn't focused on the girls in the sorority house, I, was kind of just wanted to be back there. So. Yeah,
no, fair enough. I think, I think it would have been a very different film if they'd had done that. It's actually sort of moved it in that way. But because one of the things I would say, just very quickly, is the film isn't cheap, is it? I mean, the 3D effects are very cheap, but they obviously spent a bit of money on this, didn't they? It's not like The Last Slumber Party, which is made for like, $5. I mean, they obviously... No, but they obviously spent, like at the end scene, they've got like loads of police cars and, like news crews and stuff like that. And a film that has no budget doesn't have stuff like that. So, well, Erik, what are your thoughts on Silent Madness?
Well, I would echo the sentiments of what both yourself and Nathan have said, is that I found the sorority hijinks more entertaining than anything else in the film. I didn't mind the psychiatrist character. It was when she sort of teams up with the newspaper editor, I found the film slowed down and became a bit dull. For me, the standout, as much as I love that double murder with the upside down aerobics and the Dragon's Lair game, for me, the standout scene in the film is the animated axe that is thrown at the camera, which possibly the most phony effect I've ever seen in a slasher movie. The character of Howard Johns throws his axe to the screen, and it's very obviously a pencil-drawn axe comes flying out of the screen, which probably might have been effective in 3D, but in the 2D print I was watching, looked hilariously bad. I mean, that's not a complaint. I mean, I love stuff like that. There's lots of fun to be had in the film, it has to be said. I love how easy it is for the character of Joan to gain access to the secret Ward L. That's supposed to be top secret, and she just turns up with a key and wanders around. I love the flashback that you were talking about, the Hazen flashback, where we learned that the killer's psychosis was caused by being gently spanked with a cricket bat. Which is not something that would bother me personally. I'm probably not you, Justin, from what I hear.
What have you heard?
Nothing. Now, Justin, this reference is probably one you will get. I don't think Nathan and Joseph will get this. But did you find Dr. Kruger resembled very much Victor Meldrew?
I thought Dr. Kruger was hilarious.
Yes.
I've got a clip here actually of him. I thought because he's this kind of arch English kind of doctor, and he's really sarcastic, isn't he? And here he is talking to Dr. Gilmore.
Dr. Kruger, you remember that patient from yesterday?
Don't you think it'd be a little more professional if we talked privately in my office?
This is important. I've discovered a terrible mistake.
Discovered? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about John Howard. I think the wrong patient was discharged in this place.
Oh, really? And what has led you to this startling conclusion?
Here, look at the computer printout.
How did you get hold of this? I never gave you access to these files.
Kruger, you've got a killer on the streets.
Yes, very Victor Meldrew.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of looks. He looks exactly like him. But I did like it. It was that whole Ward L plot thread reminded me of Michael Crichton's Coma, if you've ever seen that film from 1978. So it was a nice mix of that and Halloween. And overall, I found the film really entertaining. Now, I was watching a print of the film that was obviously cut. I think I was watching the UK print because I'll get onto this later, but apparently there was loads of scenes that were truncated in the one I was watching. So none of the murder scenes had particularly graphic punchlines. But I still really enjoy the film. It's one I would like to see in its original aspect ratio in a really decent DVD print, because it's one of those films from the 80s that suffers from the pan and scan job that was done for VHS. Because you can, there are scenes of dialogue where characters are completely off screen, where you can tell in the widescreen version they'd be sort of at the left or the right of the frame. So that was kind of disconcerting. But overall, I think it was a decent enough entry. It is trashy, and I love watching, as you were saying, I love watching early 80s 3D films, even if they're in 2D, because I just love the shameless gimmicks that they sort of throw out of the screen. There's a scene in this where Joan is swiping a shard, I think it's a shard of a mirror at the killer, and it's just so sort of phony and choreographed to make for a 3D effect that it's just kind of fun to watch, in the same way that watching Friday the 13th Part 3 in a 2D version, you can sort of tell it just becomes really obvious where they were sort of making obvious 3D gimmicky effects. And as you said, that's what's missing, I think, from a lot of the current 3D trend, Prometheus and Avatar and all that, is that they're too embarrassed to, poke a gun or a sword or something out of the screen, which is what I want from 3D. Otherwise, there's no point to it, I find. The whole point of 3D for me is for stuff to come out of the screen and, to gasp in astonishment. And I think it's a shame because the technology is so good now, and they're just so unwilling to do it. That's why I liked the 3D in Final Destination 4 and 5, is that there were occasions in those two films where, they obviously weren't being pretentious. They knew that people had come to see a spectacle, and they provided it. And I would love to have seen Silent Madness in 3D, even although you said it was crap. I didn't watch the 3D version, although there is a 3D scene on YouTube that I think I'll post on our Facebook page. But it's the scene, it's the famous Dragon's Lair scene, and you can watch it in anaglyph, which is the red and blue glasses 3D. Now the effects aren't that good. But what's probably most interesting about it to me anyway is that because I watched the cut UK release, the scene is slightly longer. The girl who is playing Dragon's Lair, you get to see slightly more of what happens to her in the clip. But yeah, if it came out in a decent widescreen print, uncut, I definitely would seek it out because I thought it was, fairly entertaining, particularly for something in the latter stages of the slasher boom. I thought it was pretty good.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you, Erik. Joseph, what are your thoughts on Silent Madness?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you three have said. I think the scenes with the psychiatrist and the newspaper reporter, I think they're just so dull, and I just didn't care about them. But the rest of it is just a lot of fun. Anytime the Howard Johns characters on screen, killing and stalking and all the sorority hijinks, I just think are a lot of, good entertainment. There's little things in the film that I liked. I liked the girl who pours the soda on her cereal.
Not just any soda, it's Coke.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to do product placement. So
sorry. It's a cola drink.
Yeah, you ruined it, Erik. But I was going to ask, that seems like it would be an Erik thing to do, to pour soda on cereal.
It does.
Would you do that, Erik? Yeah.
I've never tried it, but it is something I probably would do if milk was scarce in the apartment. Yeah. Interesting.
But I thought a lot of the just the atypical slasher style stuff was really well done. The 3D is phony. I mean, it's pretty terrible in places, but like you said, that's the point to it, that they're trying to get you with stuff flying at you. And a lot of films today, they're more interested in depth perception. And, Silent Madness is a film, it just throws caution to the wind and it just tries to throw as many things at you as it can. And, I like it for that. It's really cheesy and a lot of fun. And I thought the Howard Johns character, I mean, I could be, maybe I'm alone in this, but I thought he looked like like Dave Gahan, except for he went through a lot of like electroshock therapy, maybe. I mean,
Dave Gahan, I think it's pronounced.
Yeah, Gahan, however you pronounce his name.
From Depeche Mode, yeah.
Yeah, he looked just like him, I thought, but
with slightly less hair.
Yeah, with slightly less hair. He looked a lot like him in the flashback too, when he had more hair.
During his drug era of the early to mid '90s, that he probably would have gone around swinging a crowbar at random women.
Yeah, probably.
Allegedly.
But
allegedly, sorry.
Yeah, allegedly.
God, I'm going to court, aren't I?
Yeah, you're already on thin ice.
See you later, Erik.
Yeah, bye.
But yeah, like you mentioned, I love the scene where I can never remember her name, but she was in the Sleepaway Camp film. Catherine Kamal, is that her name? Kami, or yeah. I love this. Yeah. She's hanging upside down and she's just kind of writhing and twisting, like getting into her aerobics, and then he ties that thing around her neck and throws the weight out the window. I think that's one of the most creative, and inventive death scenes I've ever seen in any film.
I thought isn't Catherine Kami the sister? Or am I getting?
She's not hanging upside down. She looks like her.
Okay, maybe I'm getting. I thought it was the one who was the sister who goes.
She is the sister, but is she the one hanging upside down as well?
Yeah, no, I thought she was.
No, that's a different one. They both got dark hair. Okay. They both got dark hair, but the sister
no, she's
goes
definitely
out
the sister of the girl in the.
I must have got lost, but anyway, I like that scene. The last 20 minutes of this movie is just slasher movie gold. I mean, it's constant action and constant stalking and killing. And I guess getting into spoiler territory, I kind of felt bad for Howard Johns. I mean, when you find out that, he's got a justifiable reason to be killing because, he really was kind of, I guess you'd say, innocent after all. Not when he killed these people, but before. You know what I'm talking about, obviously.
Yeah. Because it was... well, spoiler, it was his mother, right, that killed all of them. Yeah.
Yes,
so I kind of felt bad for him. So I guess I understood why he was killing people, And he's just so manic, and he's got those crazy bug eyes and the gnashing teeth. I mean, he's a really good villain. I mean, he's not scary, but he's just fun to watch. And I guess I could just say that about Silent Madness in general. You know, if you take out the psychiatrist scenes and the whole, Howard Johns has been released. Oh no, what are we gonna do? If you just kind of truncate it down to its slasher core, it's a really good, fun film, and I would definitely recommend it. As a whole, I'd say a marginal recommendation, maybe a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. But if you like I said, if you were to take everything else, it would probably be like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, because it's just that much fun when you get to the meat and potatoes of this of what this movie's supposed to be.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Joseph. I'm just go back to something you were talking. Well, we were talking about the psychiatrist, and one of the things that I always thought is funny when you look at these early '80s movies when they do scenes in asylums or looking at mental health, and they always kind of my favourite one I think is it Straight Jacket or Dark Sanity, where they've got the woman washing her hair in the bird bath. Because they say that's obviously act mad, and I've got this little clip here of the doctor Joan talking to a patient who sounds a bit like Emo Phillips.
Romano, you know you're not allowed in the ladies' room.
The subway. I gotta find the subway.
No, Romano, you don't want the subway. That's such a dirty place.
Dr. Van Dyce told me it's time for me to go. My mother is waiting.
It's just they're not
call me Mr. Butterfingers.
Can I name drop for a second?
Yeah.
Because I went to see Emo Phillips in my hometown of Kilkenny. We have an annual stand-up comedy festival there, and I sat right behind Richard Dreyfuss in an Emo Phillips gig.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Did you tell him you're going to need a bigger boat or a bigger Kit Kat?
I should have appreciated that.
No, I didn't. No, I was too starstruck.
Isn't there a story where someone cornered Richard Dreyfuss in a bathroom and kept stalking him, wanting a picture of him, and he kept saying no, but the guy just kept following him around, demanding he get a picture from Richard Dreyfuss, and finally Richard Dreyfuss, I think he caved and said, "All right, I'll take a picture with you."
Was that
Did you hear that? I thought it might be Erik.
That did kind of happen to Whoopi Goldberg in Dublin last year.
Yeah, I know it happened sort of to Richard Dreyfuss. I thought, since you said you sat behind him, it might be you.
No. Although I would like to get a picture with him.
Yeah, well, I bet you would. The other thing, I
love Emo Phillips, by the way. So yeah,
he's great, isn't he? Yeah. Just going back
I liked
to the
him
mental
in UHF.
health. Sorry.
He was in UHF with Weird Al Yankovic, and he cuts his thumb off with a table saw.
I don't think I've seen
it. Yeah.
No. But just going back to the mental health whole thing, and the other thing, of course, is what's weird about this movie. I find is it's kind of it shifts gears, doesn't it? It going from very cheesy to quite violent, and then there's that kind of weirdly misogynistic edge to it as well, isn't there? With the two orderlies who work for Dr. Kruger,
and one of them has an amazing laugh.
Yes, which I have here.
Oh, yes.
Listen to the laugh.
Wow.
That's what I call an evil laugh.
That is an evil laugh, isn't it? And he kind of... It's just kind of weird. It's because they basically get sent after Joan to damage control because they got to capture the killer. But also they've been essentially told to go and get the doctor and give her loads of drugs, and they keep on saying like how they're going to stick it up her butt and stuff, and so it's kind of there's this weird kind of misogynistic tone with that, and then you got the is it Belinda Montgomery, the woman who plays Dr. Joan Gilmore? It's kind of almost like a TV movie of the week type act, quite wholesome actress, and so it's got this weird stuff going on. It's kind of it doesn't quite gel as a movie for the reasons we've spoken about, but it does. There's got lots of stuff in it I really, really like, and I actually with the because I saw the print I've got now is the uncut, and I think it is widescreen as well. Or relatively widescreen. I think it's not as pan and scan as the one you've seen, but the violence, there's like the skateboarding girl gets her head in the vice, and there's loads of blood coming down, and like the Dragon Slayer bit when he kills the girl playing Dragon Slayer, and he stabs her in the back, and when he pulls it out, there's a big sort of strip of skin, bloody skin hanging off it and stuff. So it's not super gory. It's not like the goriest film, but certainly it's a lot gorier than the print I saw. But I think if you go to IMDb and you look at what was cut out of the UK version, I mean, huge amounts were cut out of the UK version. Pretty much every kind of gory punchline, and of course the whole nail gun, because you not only have a nail gun massacre once, you have it twice, don't you? Because you see with this funny little portable nail gun, isn't it? And you're thinking,
would they have that in the 1960s, I wonder?
Yeah, because it would have been 1963, wouldn't it? Even though all the sorority sisters all have Valley Girl haircuts from the 80s, don't they, in the 1963? So they didn't really go all out, apart from making it black and white, to make it, to give it any period authenticity at all, did they at all? But, yeah. So, anything else you wanted to say about the film? Is there anything?
I think it would have been interesting if they'd released Nick Kershaw instead of Howard Jones by mistake. No?
I thought it would have been interesting if they would have released what's his name? I'm going to forget it. I had a good joke. Now I'm going to forget it. Somebody we made fun of on the podcast who wrote in who had the similar name. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, Mick Hucknall.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was a funny joke.
That was a joke. Would have been.
It was when I remembered it.
Yeah. I think I saw. Did you see the name tag for Toya in Wardell? I think that's where they kept all the.
Tell me.
Oh boy, here we go.
No, I was just saying it'd been funny if they'd released Toya instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what?
Instead, they released
funny
Susie.
at all, is it? I was just recycling Joseph's joke with a different punchline. It wasn't funny.
Yeah, instead they released Susie.
Yeah, but they wouldn't. She wouldn't have been in there. She would have been. She would have been Dr. Kruger. Talking of Dr. Kruger.
See, Eric, I'm not a bully. I'm sticking up for you.
I think she would have been in a mental asylum because she wrote a song about doing a poo.
Sorry?
He gives birth to swimming horses is obviously a metaphor for doing a poo.
No,
and I think that's quite psychotic to do that. Write a song about going to the lavatory.
That song is swimming horses. The only male animals that give birth, aren't they?
Yeah, I know, but the whole song's a metaphor for going to the toilet.
It's not. It's about women in sort of Arab countries. Something to do something, but it's not about doing a poo, Eric.
Or another way.
I think that was Toya's back catalogue was mostly that.
It is about doing the poo. I don't care what you say.
Okay. Well, the depths we have sunk to on the podcast.
Well, to bring us back into Silent Madness, one thing I forgot to say that I'd written down was I love these movies where after all these victims have gone through and almost died, at the end when they're laughing and joking when they're about to drive away.
I know. I love that. That's hilarious, wasn't it?
What'd you say?
Well, no, carry on, because you just sort of say, I think you're going to say what I was going to say.
Oh, no, I mean, I was just saying, I think it's funny that after everything she'd been through, at the end, she's just laughing along with the reporter. I mean...
It's kind of like almost like the end of a Nancy Drew, or like a Miss Marple or something, isn't it? It's that kind of, Murder, She Wrote. It's kind of like the happy wrap-up at the end. Even though Jessica Fletcher is obviously the most dangerous person to know in the world, isn't she? Because everyone, if anyone's associated with her is going to die at some point. She's got the touch of death, hasn't she? But one thing I was going to say was obviously a lot of people thought that, well, not a lot of people, but thought that the whole Dr. Kruger thing, and then of course you had Freddy Krueger the same year, but it was coincidental because I think the films were made around about the same time, or actually I think Silent Madness was probably made a bit before A Nightmare on Elm Street. So the Kruger thing was just a coincidence. It's one of those kind of strange coincidences you get with the slasher movies around this time, that you, for a long held belief that there was a connection there, but there wasn't really any connection, at all. But I love the ending of the final wrap up, apart from that, really cheesy thing with them going, sort of rom-com kind of ending, but the whole, with the around the sorority house with all of the news crews and police and everything, and that kind of that kind of newscaster speaking to the camera about Black Sunday. Was it Black Sunday? Dark Sunday. He was going, it's like Dark Sunday 20 years ago. And apparently Dark Sunday was the name the film was shot under. So,
didn't know that.
But talking of trivia, has anyone managed to dig anything up on the film?
I did.
The only thing I know is that the Solly Marks, who played the Howard Johns, I know he became a kind of prolific stuntman, and I think he's since retired. That's about the only thing I know.
Yeah, he was in. He performed stunts in Phantasm 2 and 3, Death Spa, which I think we know as Witch Bitch over here, and Neon Maniacs.
Okay, and what, Nathan? What have you got?
Well, I did some very extensive research and was able to determine that the axe that is thrown at the screen was not real.
What?
Okay. Wow, really?
Whoa!
I think I just got sucked into the microphone, so...
Yeah, that sounded like the end of it's Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake.
It did a bit.
Yeah. I can imagine Joseph, like his finger pointed, and he's like, "Ooh." But,
yeah, I was pointing my finger at the same time.
Well, I found out that the character, or the situation where the character tries to infiltrate herself into the sorority house, was based on the life of Justin from Bristol, where she has to go in and show them her ring to prove that she's a member of the sorority.
Are you trying to infer that I tried to get into establishments by showing my ring?
Yeah, you get into sort of secret locations by showing your ring.
Erik,
oh, I don't know.
You're plumbing the depths today, aren't you?
I
really?
am, totally. Yeah.
Gosh.
Go back and find for him.
It's because you've been watching Black Love, isn't it? You've kind of gone...
It's because of that, yeah. I've gone totally lowbrow, yeah. Okay, I have a few bits and pieces. Belinda Montgomery, who is the wholesome final girl in the film, was also a regular in a TV series I used to love as a youngster but haven't seen for the best part of 30 years, Man from Atlantis, with Patrick Duffy. And she was most recently seen as Grandma Flynn in the very disappointing Tron Legacy. Sidney Lassick, who plays the sheriff. Now, we probably know him best for his role as the English teacher in Carrie. He was also had a prominent role in 1981's The Unseen. The skateboard girl, you might recognise. She's a very, very small role, but it's Elizabeth Caton, who was Robin in Friday the 13th Part 7, and she's also in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. The other sleepaway camp connection, apart from Catherine Kami, is Paul D'Angelo, who plays the guy who's killed in the van at the start, who gets a sledgehammer to the head. He was also the location manager on the film. Justin, you might have more on this, but according to the New York Times, the film was not released theatrically in 3D. A review from 1984-85 says it's an inept, talky horror film that looks as if it may have been designed for 3D, though it has not been released that way. So I don't know if it was ever shown in 3D in the cinemas. Do you know any more on that?
It was, but I think it was. It probably had a regional rollout, and I think it got released to New York screens flat. But I've seen adverts for it with 3D on it.
Yeah, because there is you can see a poster quite, it's quite prominent on the internet saying it's in 3D.
So I wonder what I don't know why they they didn't release it in 3D everywhere, but I think that review's from 1985, wasn't it? The one in the New York Times. So it was kind of like it been knocking around for a year by the time.
True. It might have been a reissue or something. Yeah. The other thing is that, as I was saying, I was watching the what I assume was the UK print. It's available on YouTube, the entire film, if you want to have a look. But the version on YouTube is the cut version as well. As you're saying, the scenes that are cut include the killing of the skateboarder. The flashback sequence with the nail guns has been truncated. Some dialogue has been removed for being too salacious. The Dragon's Lair scene, you don't see what happens to the girl who's killed playing the arcade game. And there's actually 50 seconds removed from the scene where the killer dangles a whizzing blade over the heroine's head when she's caught in a confined space in the boiler room. So, which would have been a pretty fine 3D effect probably, but it's been removed from the print I was watching.
Okay.
So 94 seconds in total apparently were removed from the version I saw.
Great. Well, thank you, Erik, because I've just got a few bits to add to that. I mean, the film, I was filmed in summer of '83.
Toronto?
Sorry?
Toronto?
No, Ontario.
Ontario. I'm sorry. Ooh, now I'm going to really get it.
It was filmed in a place called Westfield, New Jersey, which kind of doubles for the town. I found some old TV articles from the Westfield Journal or whatever it was, talking about how they converted the local library and shops and to newspaper office, and how they were talking about the film being filmed there. And it was originally filmed as Dark Sunday, and also had alternative titles of Beautiful Screamers, and I think the other one was the Amiga Factor. Interestingly, the two characters that were originally meant to appear in it one was Martin Balsam, who was famous for being in Psycho, the detective in Psycho. Sorry?
Arbogast.
I didn't think
Psycho. Arbogast.
Arbogast, yes, yeah. He was. I presume he was probably meant to be playing the cop character that Sidney Lassick plays. But also, the other person who was meant to be in it was Maureen O'Sullivan, who was famous for her roles in the Tarzan movies, and was the mother of Tisa Farrow, who obviously wowed audiences with Anthropophagus and Zombie Flesh Eaters. And I imagine she was meant to play the house mother's character, who I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. Is it Vivica Lindfors, who plays the house mother, and she who I thought she wasn't. She was good in this, but she was kind of a bit all over the place. But she was very effective in a lot of horror movies, and especially very good in The Exorcist 3.
Love that movie.
The little old lady who they take home, or no, turns up at the house and suddenly gets out a huge pair of scissors and attacks the daughter with it. So she was in it. So it's filmed in Westfield, and also parts of it were filmed around Staten Island as well. And it's the place it was filmed. The college was somewhere called Wagner College, or Wagner College, or Wagner. The writer Bob Zimmerman was the grip on Nightmare, 1981 Nightmares and Damaged Brain. He also worked on one of your favourite horror movies, which I still haven't seen, is Night of Horror. So,
nasty.
There's a link there.
He did all that, and he did Night of Horror as well.
Yes, I know.
I guess you got to start somewhere, but man.
Yeah. The film obviously didn't exactly set the box office alight, although it was due to be picked up and distributed by Universal Studios or whatever, the Universal label, who put out films like Halloween 2 and The Funhouse. And they, for whatever reason, they didn't distribute it, and if they had, it probably would have been a lot better known. I think part of the reason really was by 1984, when the film came out, the slasher movie was pretty much dead in the water as a box office draw, before Nightmare on Elm Street kind of briefly reinvigorated the subgenre.
Justin, sorry, let me interrupt you just real quick. Eric, you've seen Night of Horror, right?
I have, yes. That's the one.
Okay, Justin hasn't seen it. Justin, I think that's your homework for the next show. You need to watch that.
Okay.
Oh,
I want to hear what you say about it. I want to hear what you say.
Okay, I will try. I will try and fit it into my busy schedule. But I've got 2 films to watch for the next podcast, haven't I? Which we'll come to a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's all I've got.
I can't believe that I just learned that Tisa Farrow's mother was Irish. Yay, go Ireland. Woo!
Well, unless I'm
You should celebrate. You should have a drink.
I should. Yeah.
What you
I've looked it up on IMDb. I can confirm that Maureen O'Sullivan is Irish, and she is the mother of both Tisa and Mia Farrow.
Well, there you go. See,
well, her name's O'Sullivan. It's not like Feinberg or anything. So
I know, yeah.
So what are you drinking, Eric?
Just Coke.
Oh, you just Coke? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. All right,
I'm drinking orange juice.
Are you?
Yeah, I had too much vodka last night, so.
No vodka in mine. I don't like vodka.
Well, it is 10 a.m. over there or something. 11
Well, I don't drink anyway, so. Doubly.
I don't trust people who don't drink.
No.
Well, I drink, but occasionally.
I don't trust people who don't drink regularly.
Just wine and beer. I don't do the
Neither do I.
I don't do the liqueurs.
What do you mean you don't, Erik? You just said you got drunk on vodka last night.
No, I said I don't trust people who don't drink regularly either.
Yeah. Well, I think
when my kidneys are still, alive and well at 90, and yours are, in the grave, I'll have the last laugh.
Yeah. Mind you, who wants to live to 90?
Yeah.
I do. I want to live to 190.
Do you? Okay.
I want to still be doing this show at 190.
Oh, gosh. What a thought.
Would we run out of slasher movies by then?
We might have done. Yeah. We could all be in a home somewhere, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Much like in Silent
He's a
Madness.
cat. Well, forcing a colostomy bag, he's a cat. Colostomy bag.
Oh, I can see my whole life stretching out in front of me now. So, back to Silent Madness. To wrap things up, any other thoughts before we get on to feedback? Because we have got a massive... We've got a swelling bag, haven't we?
Did anyone else watch it in 3D apart from Nathan? Because I only watched that tiny clip on YouTube, and the 3D wasn't hugely effective, I have to say. What
I
did
watched
you think,
it in
Joseph?
3D.
And
it's kind of crappy, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun because it's so hokey. So you kind of get a little enjoyment out of it. And it's it's not like Final Destination 5 or My Bloody Valentine 3D or anything like that, but it is what it is.
Does it work?
Did it work though? Did the illusion work?
Well, I mean, not really, but at the same time, it did its job. But you could just see how crummy it looked. I mean, it did come at you, but it still looked phony. So
yeah.
But I enjoyed it in 3D. Yeah.
Well, hopefully somebody will pick this up to release it, because I think it definitely deserves.
And we should do commentary.
Yes, absolutely, love to. Yeah. So, that is Silent Madness. I mean, there's not much more that could be said about it apart from do check it out. I think it has got I'm not sure if it's got any kind of legitimate release.
I think it had a DVD release in the UK.
Okay.
In its cut form, though.
Right. Well, this is
one. If you want the movie was silent in the title.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that is Silent Madness. So, let's move on to our feedback. Before we do that, we'll play some details, because before
we needed was as much feedback as we have.
I know. Before we were going, we've no feedback, and everyone felt sorry for us and sent us a shitload of feedback, which is fantastic.
Which is absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
So much that we're actually going to have to split it up into a couple of episodes.
Yes. So if you don't hear your feedback this time, then we will get round to it next time. And it's only literally because we're already at the 2-hour 20 mark. We would be here for another 2 hours if we went through all the feedback we've got, which is fantastic. So if you haven't heard your feedback in the next bit, then it will be coming on our next show, and we will definitely get around to it. But here's how to get in contact with the show.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Okay. Well, shall we kick off with a voicemail?
Do it.
Here's the first one.
Hello. Hysteria continues. The fine gentleman of the Hysteria continues. This is Richard of Tampa, and I want to say thank you for your praise of Anthropophagus 2, a.k.a. Absurd, a.k.a. La Horrible. That's the French title. A lot of people are hating on Absurd, and it's made me so happy to hear you guys even lavish a little praise on it. So thank you very much. That's all I gotta say. I just want to rewatch it now. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep up the chunky Kit Kats. And whenever Argento is pooping, you're doing a good job. Bye.
Well, thank you, Richard. And Argento hasn't disgraced himself, although he chewed through yet another one of my headphones yesterday.
Oh,
the little shit.
Argento. Were they expensive Sennheisers?
No. I kind of. There's no point getting expensive ones. I can imagine if I go into HMV or one of the record shops here, and you can buy headphones for like £400, which is a ridiculous amount of money. You can imagine then if you got those home and the little black cat chewed through the wire.
Oh, there'd be war. Yeah,
there would be.
I have a Chiweenie dog here. It's a Chihuahua and Dachshund mix. He likes to chew through wires. He destroyed a phone cord that charges the phone, so we had to purchase another one. And we have a rabbit who also likes to chew through wires. He chewed through a coax cable, and I'm surprised he wasn't electrocuted. So I feel your pain, Justin.
Thank you. Well, it's taught me a valuable lesson that I need to keep any wires away from little black cats. But no, thank you, Richard. And I'm glad you enjoyed the absurd episode, because that was a fun one to do, wasn't it? That was your choice, Erik, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it's a firm favourite in the Throwfall household.
Yes, we all liked it. We all gave it high praise, didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, because I mean, these shows we've done so many, they kind of run together. So I wasn't sure if one of us had something bad to say about it.
Shockingly,
but I don't think
I gave it high praise.
I think we all liked it, Daddy.
Yeah, Daddy.
Yes.
Quit that sniffling, or the boogeyman be getting you.
I don't think I have. It's a shame, actually. I would, if I had that little clip. I don't have it, but.
Oh.
But no. Well, thank you, Richard. Does someone want to read one out next?
I'll go. Or Nathan, you go ahead.
Okay, mine says, "Hey guys, still turning into the podcast. I guess it's tuning, my bad. Still tuning into the podcast and loving every minute despite your persistent and baffling Erik bashing.
Yeah.
He is, after all, the true beating heart of the show." Yeah.
Hiss.
Yeah, right.
Hey. Boo hiss.
That
Boo
is
hiss.
totally true. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Just had a thought. Any chance of covering Harper's Island, the slasher-esque miniseries from 2009? It was an unusual choice for CBS at the time, and although far from perfect, did have a few memorable moments. I'd be keen to hear a thorough dissection from such horror-literate fellows as yourselves. Keep up the good work, chaps. John W. from Ontario.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I think I've said it before. It's probably, I think I've said it before. It's probably, too long to, go into explicit detail about every episode. But, having said that, I've mentioned it before. I really enjoyed it, especially when I rewatched it. I liked it a lot more than I did when it first aired. I think it's, it reminds me of an extended episode of, or it reminds me of like April Fool's Day stretched out over, 9 or 10 hours, or, one of those island set slasher films, maybe like Humongous or something. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I didn't get to watch it when it came out. It arrived actually here in a blaze of publicity because there's an Irish actress in it. She's one of the leads, Elaine
Reminds me a
Cassidy.
lot of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer as well, because it's set
sounds
on,
good. Yeah.
It's got a lot of rain and, kind of the island atmosphere and a lot of silly, cheesy moments. But if you haven't seen it, Erik, I'd definitely watch it. I mean, it's only like 13 episodes.
Again, it's one where I completely forgot to watch the first episode, and then I thought, okay, there's no point watching the rest. But
you might like it as well because it's kind of soapish in a lot of aspects.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You might enjoy it. Give it a chance. I mean, only 13 episodes. It's bookended, so you're not left on a cliffhanger. It's all wrapped up at the very end. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll give it a whirl. See, it must probably be available as a box set, I assume.
Or the Baby Jesus might provide.
I have no idea what you mean.
No. You're saying it's being released in Dublin?
Yeah, I'll check and see if it has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Justin?
I have, yeah. No, I enjoyed it. It was kind of, it was very entertaining. I don't know... we probably couldn't really cover it on the show beyond what we're talking about now, just because it would take a huge amount of time to rewatch the whole thing and to coordinate it. But it was just kind of, it was really interesting to see a slasher variation, like a serial. It was, it was really good. So yeah, definitely worth watching. So thank you for that bit of feedback. Who wants to go next? And then I'll do another voicemail.
I'll go.
Okay.
This is from David, a.k.a. Baka or Baka, B-A-K-A. I don't know how you pronounce that, but he says, "Dear Nathan and sidekicks, The lack of feedback in recent episodes has shamed me into writing in. I listen religiously and eagerly await each new episode, but selfishly have never expressed that enjoyment as feedback until now. Although Nathan is easily my favorite, and then he says in parentheses, I'm sorry, but it's true, I do very much enjoy what everyone brings to the table. Everyone has a very unique character, and as psycho killer stalker as it sounds, I feel like I've come to know you all over the course of the podcast. I'm not a huge fan of the quizzes, but have grown to be fond of them due to the quirks each of you seem to display during. Erik/Inga really runs the gamut of emotions during these, doesn't he? The lapses into despair towards the end are always endearing, though. I found the most recent one in particular entertaining because the questions were very smartly crafted to avoid cheating. And then in parentheses again, he says, perhaps I just have a bad mind, but I feel like Joseph is pulling an ending to April Fool's Day during the amount of time he ums and ahs before answering a question. And to that I say...
fuck you.
Anyway, there's your and ah for that. He says, if you're still looking for suggestions for top threes, perhaps, you can do them by individual year or even decade. It's probably not viable for every year, but certainly at the peak during the 80s to the mid-80s, I imagine you could each easily come up with a list of 3 titles for each year. One thing that has always interested me is how you all source the films each person picks. I imagine in the majority of cases you've all had a copy on one format or another, but for some of the more obscure picks, the Crimmy Justin pick, for example, or some of Nathan's more spirited choices, I'm interested to know how you track them down, and I'll just give him 2 words, baby Jesus. One last thing, not really podcast related, but I noticed Justin recently posted pictures from a copy of the UK press pack for The Burning. Arrow and the UK are trying to find the rights owners for the film. It's not MGM in the UK, apparently. And if this press pack gives any clues, it would be great if Justin could pass this information on. Thanks for your time, and I hope no one takes anything I've said here in jest to heart. I am deeply thankful to all of you for your hard work. That's from David.
Well,
David, you are the best feedbacker I've heard from, I have to say. That was some of the most intelligent, well thought out feedback ever.
Did you write it, Nathan?
I did not.
Well, you know what I think about that, don't you?
Bullshit.
Good. Here's my thing.
Arnie
if I would
speaks
have
the
written
truth.
it, I would have talked about watching Voodoo Massacre and how excited I am for the sequel, okay? If I had written fake feedback, it would be all about my films and how amazing they are.
Well, that's for next week, isn't it?
Oh, I need to write some fake feedback for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mission.
Well, I will have a look to see what it says on the press pack to see who owns the rights. But I don't know. The rights to put something out on. Well, the thing is, the cinema rights have been different because Thorn EMI put out video of The Burning in the UK, and then Vipco put out a copy years later. So, and the rights are bounced around a bit.
See, I thought MGM owned Thorn EMI, so wouldn't they own The Burning? And he seems to indicate that they don't. I could be wrong. I thought they did own Thorn EMI. Well, I thought that was a subsidiary.
Vipco put out a version of it after Thorn EMI, because Thorn EMI put it out in about 1982 or 83, I think, on video, and during the video, or just before the Video Nasties debacle. But then Vipco, who are a very famous video label in the UK,
I'm sorry, HBO is Thorn EMI, not MGM. So yeah, I guess he is right. Sorry about that.
Okay, but then of course we've got Scream Factory going to put out a very, very good version of The Burning, so we shall see. It doesn't mean, obviously when Arrow put stuff out, then they put out, they've got High Rising Productions, who are doing the Slice and Dice documentary that I'm involved with, and they do amazing sort of extra features. So hopefully get 2 good releases of The Burning, a UK one and a US one, but we shall see. Yeah. Okay, well, shall we do another voicemail?
Sure.
Here we go.
This is Cabe Gaplin calling to say hello. Unfortunately, my close personal friends from my last voicemail couldn't make it here today. Something about having to go wash their hair. Whatever. Anyway, I got to listen to your Nail Gun Massacre podcast. What'd I think of it? Well, to quote BTK, you nailed it. Ha 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 ha. Oops. Made me think, since you all recently did a commentary for Savage Water, have you ever thought about doing one for Nail Gun Massacre?
Yay.
Might be entertaining enough that it doesn't need a commentary track, but it's a thought. Oh, Nathan, congratulations on bringing back the Axe to Grind show. It's been a great listen. Erik, I'm still waiting for that Xanadu podcast.
I'm sorry.
I was happy that you chose Absurd, though. That's a fun film. Joseph, I was a little crestfallen when The Body Count Continues went away on a little trip.
That happens every
just made
week.
me appreciate it even more when it came back.
Yay.
Justin, I'm glad you talked about the film Headhunters. I thought it was a great film myself, and I believe Farmer Vincent said it was one of his favorite films from last year. I was surprised to hear that you enjoyed it, since there was that particular scene with the dog. I was also glad you talked about Snow Beast. The first time I saw it, it was 1980, and I was in England visiting relatives. We were staying at a bed and breakfast, and that night, after dinner, it was playing on the telly. It made a great impression on me. Oh, and I second the idea of doing a future double bill podcast of Next of Kin and Houseboat Horror. They're both great films for very different reasons. I'm particularly keen on Houseboat Horror, mainly because I'd love to provide the voiceover for a trailer so that I can use my award-winning Australian accent. Here's a sample. Brace yourself. Barbie. I know, hold your applause.
That was amazing.
All right, I've said more than enough. Y'all have a jolly good day, Bagosh and Bagara. So long.
Oh, it's Irish accent as well.
Yeah, thank you, Cabe. Thank you.
He could do a Twinkle voice.
Totally. He has the most incredible voice.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very Tobin Bell-esque.
We definitely do need to get a trailer done, don't we? We do need to do a trailer soon.
Well, I made one, but it didn't have a voiceover. But we need one with a voiceover, and I think Cabe would be perfect for it.
Absolutely. Just to answer, Cabe, about the Headhunters and the dog scene, well, obviously, it stands to reason it wasn't a real dog, and obviously I kind of watch films where people get killed all the time, so although it wasn't easy to watch, it was kind of, it's not a real dog, so I'm not that squeamish. As long as they're not using real animals, it's the same as watching people die, I kind of guess, otherwise it'd be a bit fun if it wasn't. So, But, yes, always good to hear from Cabe. So
thank you, Cabe.
Yes, thank you. And another regular, I'll read this out because it's a bit of an epic, is our friend Terry from Belgium. And I'm going to have to, because we've got so much, Terry, I'm going to have to skip over a couple little bits, but just to say, what he does say is he was very disappointed or surprised we didn't get feedbacks 2 times in a row. So he wrote in and he just said, want to tell us about, he says, I watched the outstanding German giallo Masks. It's a recent giallo from 2011 and a homage to Suspiria. So if you like Suspiria, who doesn't anyway, you would certainly like this movie. I don't think Nathan and Joseph would like it though. Controversial. I mean, Nathan and Joseph are far more into 80s slasher movies. It could be wrong though. I've not seen Masks, but that's definitely might be one to track down. So thanks, Terry. He says, I've not seen The Collector yet, but Nathan's, or maybe it was Joseph's review, made me want to see it. It is the only horror movie I've watched recently. Otherwise, I watched a lot of episodes of The Big Bang Theory, and gosh, I really like this TV series. It's hilarious and makes you smile. And he
goes on, something all right.
So you don't like The Big Bang Theory?
No, I do not like The Big Bang Theory.
Why don't you like it?
It's one of those shows that, I don't know, it's one of those like shows where people talk how it's so exaggerated that it's kind of annoying. And the characters are kind of annoying. I mean, I only saw like 3 episodes, but that was enough. So maybe it got better. I don't know. But I just didn't enjoy it.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, he goes on to say about he says about, again, Justin and Nathan should watch Battlestar Galactica because it's so good. It's not about aliens, it's about human beings against the Cylons. Cylons are robots and they look to be humans. I mean, really humans like you and I, but they in fact are very sophisticated robots, and it's actually impossible to make the difference between a Cylon and a human. Isn't that just kind of cheap special effects when they do that?
That's
they don't have to hire any robots.
I jumped to,
yeah, absolutely. He goes on to say, I'm glad you watched the 2 Polizia movies, Justin. I have several Polizia movies on DVD, and most of them are violent, not very gory, but a lot of persons are killed, stolen, raped. Even children are killed from time to time. So, all fun for the family with those, obviously. And there's a lot more, actually. I did enjoy the Polizia I've seen, so I've acquired a few more of those to watch at my leisure. He also goes on to say, I recommend you watch La Racon de la Peur from Lenzi with Thomas Milan portraying a demented psychopath killer. He says, I've not seen The Big Racket yet from Castellari, I think, but I see the DVD and I would make a blind buy. Then he goes on to talk about Hospital Massacre X-Ray. He says, I do not think it's strange, I mean, in a Twin Peaks kind of way. However, you're right, it's not normal that a heroine cannot leave the hospital when she wants to. It's like you said, a kind of prison. But hey, if she could have left the hospital so easily, the running time of the movie would have been something like 20 minutes, which is very true, of course. I kind of liked this movie, even if movies like Halloween 2 and Visiting Hours are much more superior, which is controversial. I wonder, Nathan, would you, if you had Halloween 2, Visiting Hours, and Hospital Massacre out in front of you, which one would you choose to watch?
Well, I love them all, but I mean, I'll just rank them and what I enjoy the best. Halloween 2 is number 1, then Hospital Massacre, then Visiting Hours. But I still love all of them.
Well, he goes on to say you quoted Halloween 2, but barely spoke about Visiting Hours, which is a pity, I think. He says Visiting Hours has a better cast, William Shatner, a small role, I know, and Michael Ironside. Better music, better art direction, and better production anyway. I do like Visiting Hours, but it's quite a mean-spirited slasher, isn't it? It's kind of one that I don't find myself wanting to revisit that often. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. I think it's a great movie, but yeah, I don't think it's very rewatchable. Fun. Yeah, it's not fun. It is, but not great fun, I'd say. Yeah.
And the last thing he says, he has a question for us. He says, when you watch a foreign movie, do you watch the dubbed version or the original version? He says, personally, I always watch the original version because I think if you watch the dubbed version, you miss something. For me, if I'm watching a newer film, I always watch the subtitle version, as I did with Headhunters, because I tried watching the dubbed version only to see what it's like, and it was so badly dubbed in so much. It was well dubbed, but the voices just didn't really match the characters, and so. But the only time I ever watch dubbed versions of films is something like sometimes Giallo or 70s Italian movies, because sometimes the cheesier ones are sometimes better, aren't they, with like that Euro dubbing.
Oh yeah.
When they, like a film like Eyeball is a lot funnier and more entertaining in the dub version than potentially it might be if you were having to read subtitles. But certainly, whenever I watch a Pedro Almodovar film, and like I watch The Skin That I'm In or Skin That I Live In, or this newer one, always watch it in subtitled. But what about you guys?
I'd be exactly the same. Yeah,
I watched the subtitle. I think the only recent movie I watched that was dubbed was I watched Time Crimes first dubbed, but then I watched it with the subtitles because it's better with the subtitles. But I watched The Raid with dubbed, and it was terrible, so I watched it with subtitles, and it was a lot better.
Cool. Okay. Right. Well, thank you, Terry, for another long feedback, and thank you for thinking of us, because it's always good to hear from people, and obviously we like feedback, and we've got huge amounts now, which is great. So it's better than the other way around, which as it was. So thank you very much. Okay, who would like to go next?
Okay, I've got one here. This is from Giovanni Barunda, And he says, hello, fine gents. Just wanted to drop you another line for helping me get through the long drive to and back from work. It's been a while since I've written, but I've been really impressed with the quality of the podcast. It keeps getting better and better with every show. I even have started saying terms I've learned on the show, like the infamous baby Jesus, and of course, matron please. Thanks to this podcast, I really started to explore more into the slasher genre than just the popular titles and have found a lot of gems. Over the last few years, I have been dying to write a slasher of my own, but thanks to you guys, I've discovered that I don't have to tell a Jason type of slasher, but I can mix and match from the different types of slashers, and it really reminded me of why I love the genre in the first place. When it came time to film a short film, I decided to take all the excitement and tools of the genres that I learned from you guys to make it. So don't be surprised if I thank you guys in the credits. Keep up the great work, and I keep looking forward to your podcast every few weeks, though I have to admit you guys are leaving me broke because every time you guys review or talk about a good slasher, I always have to run out and buy it. Right now, Nail Gun Massacre is on my list. For future reviews, I'd love to hear your guys' take on a more serious jolly like Don't Torture a Duckling or The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. All the best from Giovanni Borunda. Well, thanks, Giovanni. Best of luck with your short. Best of luck with your short film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they're in competition with Nathan and Joseph.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, but I do.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'd love to do A Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward or something
yes,
like that.
And Don't Torture a Duckling, both of which are favourites of mine, I have to say.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely.
I like them both.
Yeah, we could. I will probably get round to doing another Giallo double bill at some point quite soon, but we shall see. Yes. So
who's next? Joseph, do you have any more?
Yes.
I have more, but I'm going to save them for the next episode because I know Justin has another voicemail and some other emails.
Okay. Well, I'm going to... shall I do the final voicemail? Because I think there is another voicemail we have, but we're going to save that for next time. So this is our final voicemail of today.
Hello, gentlemen, from the Hysteria Continues. My name is Betty, and I'm calling from Maryland in the States. And I wanted to call in to show my appreciation for your podcast. I've been listening for a little bit now. I'm all caught up currently and then going into back episodes. I just yesterday listened to your number 20 about Giallo, where you talked about Deep Red and Eyeball, and that was exceptional. I really enjoyed that one. I wanted to talk specifically today about a film you mentioned in passing on one of your episodes called Hellbent from 2004. It was a gay slasher, and the way you described it made me want to look into it, so I found that it is available, at least right now, on Netflix in the States. For those of you in the U.S., you should really look into this film. It's pretty good. It felt like an 80s film to me, even though it was filmed in the noughties, as you like to say. And it's refreshing in this day and age to just get a good old-fashioned slasher instead of torture porn or the other kind of garbage that's put out now, all this found footage, which I like found footage if it's done right, but it seems to be a crutch now for filmmakers. So I just like this kind of return to yesteryear and just make a good old slasher movie. I like the fact that it was set on Halloween night. That works especially well for the killer, who happens to be wearing a devil costume, so he can walk around freely among the people to stalk these 4 kids that we get introduced to earlier in the film. And that leads me to the fact that I like that this film had character development. They actually got to, let you get to know all of these characters who are very likable. And you don't want to see anything bad happen to them, but of course it has to because it is a slasher. But most movies these days, you hate the characters. They're annoying. You can't wait for them to die, but not so in this one. The killer was very effective. He was a huge guy. He wore this devil mask. You never really saw him very well. He was always in shadow. You saw his silhouette, which made him even more mysterious and terrifying. And he never speaks. And he's sort of a la Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. He just does what he does. He kills. And, the killer's motive is obviously he doesn't like gays. I think that the one guy in the group that dressed in drag probably could have gotten away if he didn't have such a big mouth, but you've got to see the movie to see what I mean about that. And yeah, I just liked it. It had humor, it had great special effects, really inventive kills, and a great final shot that made me smile and want a sequel. So if you like slashers, then, well, of course you do because you're listening to this show. But I would recommend it to anyone who would want to see it. I think it's really good. So other than that, yeah, I love the show. I feel like I know you guys. I think you all really work well together, and you're very knowledgeable. Your quizzes I would suck at because I just can't believe the detail you go into. I would like another top 3 so I could hear that cat flush in the toilet again. And a special hello to Patrick from Scream Queens, without whom I would have never heard of you guys, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So if you all are listening to The Hysteria Continues, check out Scream Queens with a Z. You won't be disappointed. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Betty. Thank you ever so much for phoning in, and sorry for the delay in playing your voicemail. So Betty's a regular phoner-inner, if that's the right word, on Scream Queens with a Z. And I know Patrick was pretending to be a little bit upset that Betty might have come over to the other side, i.e. this podcast. But I think we will share Betty, won't we, Patrick? I don't think you'll mind sharing, Betty. So, yes. so it's great.
Speaking of Hellbent, that's a movie that kind of underwhelmed me, but everyone's talking about how great it is. I think I need to go back and watch it again.
No, I think so. I really like it. I've watched it quite a few times. It's one of my kind of go-to movies, and I sort of think it's for a newish slasher. Well, I suppose when newish, it's like almost 10 years old now, isn't it? It's like 9 years old, but. It was really good fun, and like Betty says, it has that 80s sensibility to it, which is missing from a lot of newer slash movies. So and it avoids all that torture porn and all that kind of crap. And it's it doesn't, you don't have to be gay to enjoy the film because it's it works. I think it works on as a slasher movie with characters that just happen to be gay in it. Thank you for sharing the love for Hellbent, because I think it's a good little film.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, Betty. Yes. So, have we?
I have another email to read.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. This is quite a short one. It's hi. This is Justin Kosh from Italian Lemonade, the Giallo blog that I am in desperate need of updating, and the address there is italianlemonade.blogspot.com. I recently hit 10,000 views. Sure, it was over the course of 3 years, but I'm still happy. I just got the slasher movie book and some of my Christmas... I just got the slasher movie book with some of my Christmas money, and I'm enjoying it immensely, which leads me to my question aimed towards Justin. I've been speaking with my old professor, the one I mentioned in a previous email, who greatly supported my ventures into Gialli. He's even been so inspired by my love of Giallo that he is going to be teaching about them in his class this semester. Of course, after I graduated, probably to keep me from correcting him every 30 seconds in the middle of his lecture. Anyway, he's been encouraging me to write a book of my own all about that great Italian genre. And as pumped as I am about doing so, I barely know where to begin. Do you have any advice? Thanks. And this is the bit that I don't agree with Justin, both Kurzweil and Kosh. He says, and Susie forever, Toya for never.
Oh, so yes. Well, Justin, obviously, impeccable taste.
Well, where would he start with his
music?
Book?
Sorry?
Where would he start with his Giallo book, anyway?
Well,
skimming over his Toya slur.
Well, for me, I was in the right place at the right time for my book, because it was a friend of mine got a job as a commissioned editor for a publishers and was looking for quirky ideas for books. So I was lucky in that regard. It's quite rare to get a book like that from a kind of major publisher. My suggestion would be to go literally to a bookshop and look at the books there, see who's releasing them. I think you're in the UK, Justin, but you might not be if you're not. But there's a lot of smaller publishers who kind of do these these type of books, kind of niche, I kind of guess, because the majority of people wouldn't know what a giallo was, unfortunately. And there are some giallo books already out. There's the Dark Side one, Blood and Black Lace, which is a good overview. But I mean, that's over 10 years old now, so I think there's definitely room for a good giallo book. But that would be my suggestion. Contact people like Fab Press, Head Press, those kind of, and write to them and ask them, if that's something they'd be interested in doing. That would be my suggestion, really. And then you can write a treatment for it, and then see if they go for it. So good luck with it. It'd be great to get a good giallo book out there. So I mean,
will the cover be yellow?
It could be. Be no reason not to.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Have we got any more? I've got a number. I've got about 4 or 5 more emails here, but I am aware that we're 10 minutes short of 3 hours, so we are kind of. This is turning into an epic. Do you think we should leave some for next time?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, apologies if we haven't read your emails out. We will definitely get to them next time, and we have a voicemail for next time as well. And hopefully, I'll have a few more people writing in. It's just that if we carried on, it's going to go into about 3.5 hours, and I think that's going to be too much to test everyone's patience and their their download speeds or whatever, but the bandwidth. So we're going to. And just going back to Patrick from Scream Queens with a Z, I said last time, I kind of accidentally stole his line about wrapping the puppy up by complete accident, Patrick. So I'm going to say, well, let's wrap this kitten up.
Oh, wait a minute. He says that's his line. I've heard that line elsewhere.
I know. I did look it up. I know. I'm just humouring him. But he said I was bullying him, and it was kind of like the English in Boston, and that's why they had a revolution, all sorts of things. It all got very, very nasty. But,
very political, yeah.
Very political. But Patrick,
lawyers are involved.
Lawyers are involved, yes.
Yeah.
But
with that high,
Yes, but also he introduced me to the Hole, so for that I will be very thankful. And we haven't got. What I was thinking, what could we play this episode out with? Because to be honest, the music in Silent Madness is pretty. Well, it's not particularly exciting, is
incidental?
it?
I'd say incidental.
I think you should play some Madness.
Some Madness.
Some fun, maybe?
That would be good. But I haven't got any Madness queued up. But what I have got is another song from 1983, and it's not Susie, and it's not Toya, but it's the Cramps, the Gorehounds. What?
Could you not play some?
I like the Cramps.
Sorry?
Could you not play some Kajagoogoo?
I could do, but I'm not going to. So.
Well, before you do that, Erik, do you want to tell everyone what your next pick's going to be?
Oh, sorry, yes. Next week, next fortnight on the show, we're going to be covering The Hills of Eyes Part 2. Is it better than Scream? Tune in and find out.
And incidentally, we'll be talking a bit about The Hills of Eyes Part 1 as well, won't we?
Sorry, I should mention that they're both the Wes Craven originals, not the recent remakes. Sorry.
Yes. And what we did have some feedback from somebody saying about if we can point people in the direction of where to watch these. Did I say direction or erection? I think I said direction.
just baby Jesus. That's all I can say.
Yeah, or try YouTube as well, because there's a surprising amount of slasher movies in their entirety on YouTube.
I think Hills of Eyes, but both the original and the sequel are both out on DVD, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Certainly in the UK. So you should be able to pick those up, and we'll be doing that covering that in a fortnight. Although we'll be recording, I think, a week next week. So
next week, yeah.
So
it'll be coming out on St. Patrick's Day, when it's the day that you all have to send me presents.
That's not going to happen.
You have my address, don't you, to send me the presents to?
No. But we could send you something, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Couldn't we?
So you have to give me presents.
Some anthrax.
Some anthrax. Oh, Joseph.
Okay. The Hills of Eyes Part 1 is on YouTube.
Right.
I'm just looking to see if the trailer for 2 is on YouTube. Anyway, that's where I go to normally first to see, and if not, then I try Baby Jesus.
Yeah, well, no, that is always the backup plan. Yeah. So we are going to play out with a song from 1983, the same year that Silent Madness was made, and that is the Cramps' I Ain't Nothing But a Gorehound to play us out. So say goodbye to the good folks.
Goodbye,
good folks.
Okay, and see you later.